All right, welcome on in to another episode of DCU Daily on Oh So Curious. We have a packed show today. There's a lot to get into. Of course, we have all the Batman news you can possibly handle today, because right towards the top of the show, we're going to be talking about that rumor. I think it came up on yesterday's show, and I was here solo, and you guys were hitting me up with news. One of the things was Jeff Snyder suggested that, hey, we might be getting a Robin in the Batman Part 2. Well, James Gunn has chimed in on that, so we will talk about it. We will see what James Gunn had to say. And then Jeff Snyder, responded to James Gunn. So there's a whole, hullabaloo that we're going to get into. And we have some Marvel news, of course, as always. We have, Pedro Daddy. He's wrapped up on Avengers Doomsday. What does that mean for his part? Does that mean he's now going to move on to shooting Secret Wars? Do they have a finished script for that? We'll talk about it. Ana de Armas, hot off ballerina, might be joining the MCU. In what role? There's a rumor out there. We'll talk about it. Of course, we will give you an update, the customary Superman update at the box office, where it's at today, as well as other news from Peacemaker, and of course, Zach Cregger's Weapons. We have a full review today. We got two people on the show who have seen the movie. They'll be talking about it. In addition to that, we also have some news about, hey, the Hollywood Reporter let it out. We have an idea now of the Batman movie that Zach Cregger has written a script for. He hasn't pitched it yet, but so I don't know if James Gunn is aware of this, but I'm sure he's aware of it now because people are probably sending it to him. We'll talk about that, whether Zach Cregger could be a good fit for the DCU, and so much more. So to do that, let's hit that news intro and get the show started.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always number two.
All right, Mr. I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding. You're kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne. I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see chords.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the world needs now.
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right. Well, as I mentioned before the intro, we've got a lot to get into today. And to do that with me, and today, not only do I have John returning to answer the question that I think Hunter Iggy was asking, where is John? Well, John is here. In addition to John, we also have somebody new today, but we're going to introduce them one at a time so that we give each and everybody a chance to introduce themselves. Of course, John has been away on assignment for a couple of days, so we'll start there. John, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I don't know if you can see behind me. I got a new chair, guys. See, it's much more comfortable now. It has pillows to help my lower back, and now my coccyx doesn't hurt after, 30 minutes of being in this chair, and it's not held together with duct tape. So now I can actually enjoy myself and just very nice. There we go. Anyway, but I have been doing well, catching up on some work stuff, but yeah. And I have my jelly beans. I have my jelly beans here. That's what I'm eating. I'm eating my cream soda jelly beans.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Nice. Okay. Well, hey, we got obviously a right dude in the chat. Hunter Iggy. Patrick is here. Monique is here. Hello, all. Hope you are having a fantastic Friday. Tonight is Italian grinder, pasta salad, and steak and white cheese and sourdough sandwich. She just has the best food. Like, that's so ridiculous. Like yesterday, Monique said something. I'm forgetting every day. It's like she has a 5-course, super deluxe meal, and I'm just jealous. Like, and I had just eaten before yesterday's show. I was like, I did not eat that good, but yay for the new chair. There we go. All right, and Anthony's here as well, of course. Hi, Anthony. So we do have somebody new on the show. I've been promising that we're going to get somebody who has watched Weapons and talking about it this week. He actually got a chance to see it a bit early, and earlier than most everybody else. But we weren't able to work out a time for him to be on the show until today. That's okay, because kind of works out. John has also seen the movie now, so we can have a bigger conversation. So welcoming in for the first time on the show, we have with us Shaq. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks, Daniel, for having me on the show. I'm really excited. I got to say, man, this is my first time on a podcast. So, super psyched. Yeah, guys, just a little bit about me. I'm a film director, also an actor. And yeah, I got to see Weapons early last week on Tuesday, actually, at 2:17 p.m. But yeah, guys, I can't wait to talk about that. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, hey, we can't wait to talk about weapons either. In fact, we already have Just Some Geeky Guy in the chat. He sent us a super chat. Thank you so much, Just Some Geeky Guy, for the $5 super chat saying, I saw Weapons yesterday and I was so disappointed. It was more funny than scary and the pacing was slow. The ending was unintentionally funny. 6 out of 10. So Justin Geeky Guy, maybe not the biggest fan. We'll see how everybody else does with the movie. I mean, of course, I know Shaq and yourself and John, you have both seen the movie. John just saw it. What did you say? You saw it yesterday or today?
No, I saw it a few hours.
Today.
I got out a few hours ago.
Just hours ago. All right, cool. So we'll get into that in a little bit. We have a few other pieces of news before we get there. We have to talk about the weekend box office, including weapons, of course. So we'll do that as well. Right Dude is saying he's going to do a double feature with his brother. With weapons and together would have seen together last week, but canceled it due to a medical emergency. Okay, cool. So we hope that, by the way, everything is okay with the medical emergency. But hold on to that thought because Shaq also has some things to say about just the horror genre in general. But to kick things off here, the very first thing we're gonna do, it's a little more of a somber note that we're starting the show off on. But we can't not address it. So let's start there. And the very first thing we have to discuss is the passing of a legendary NASA astronaut, Jim Lowell. Jim Lowell, of course, if you guys remember, as it says in the headline there, he was the mission commander on Apollo 13, infamous for, the malfunctions that caused it to basically almost have the lives of all three astronauts on board, including Jim, to be lost. But, of course, human ingenuity and all, we duct tape and, to the rescue. He survived what was probably a very harrowing experience. Of course, we remember Apollo 13, the movie. Tom Hanks played Jim Lowell in the movie, and towards the end of the movie, you actually see Jim Lowell as well as all the other astronauts from that mission. Like they're one of the three of the people with like the hats on, and they shake the hands of the actors on the ship. When they are back on Earth. So he was 97 years old. He left an indelible mark on the space exploration industry in general, and at a time when we didn't have SpaceX, we didn't have Blue Origin, we didn't have all these companies doing things. It was NASA and pretty much NASA alone. And Apollo 13 certainly, was meant to be, the third time humans would step onto the moon. Didn't happen, but the fact that they were able to solve a crisis, that's what he's most known for. But he did a lot more than that, of course, throughout his time at NASA. At 97 years old, you also got to imagine, hopefully, that he had, a loving, caring, and complete journey throughout his career, as well as hopefully a life that he was proud of. So with that, I just wanted to kind of throw it over to you, John, and then Shaq, you can also chime in. How do you remember Jim Lowell? I mean, you probably remember the name from Apollo 13, the movie, but beyond that, like, so if you can speak to his passing and how would you remember him and his legacy?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I only know him from really Apollo 13. Even I forgot his name, like Jim Lowell. I'm like, who is that again? And I'm like, oh, right, because my sister told me. So I was like, oh, what is that? And then I looked up like, oh yes, of course. How could I forget? Because Apollo 13 was one of the movies I watched so much as a kid against my own will, because my family liked watching it. I didn't really appreciate it until much later, because I was like 5 years old when watching. I'm like, why are we watching this boring thing about people in space? I want to watch SpongeBob. So like, I didn't realize the greatness of it until much later. But it's still, as the comment said, I believe Patrick Olinger already said it, but he lived a very long life. 97 is so long, and even though he never got to the moon, like the fact that he came so close is still a brilliant achievement, and the fact he came back with his life as well as the lives of the others as well is also still a testament to the the greatness that NASA did back then. So I think it's sad to see, but again, 97, he lived a very long life, and we've talked about people on the show that have not lived very long lives, and those are always
Gone too
much
soon,
sadder.
yeah.
But the fact that he lived very long, it's still still nice to see. So in a weird sort of way, but yeah, of course, we'll always be remembered as the man. Of course, with Apollo 13, of course, gonna always remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim Lowell, yeah, like you said, he never landed on the moon himself. But by the way, quick fun fact: Apollo 13, the movie, based on the events of Apollo 13, of course, the actual mission. The 30th anniversary with an IMAX re-release happens later this year on September 19, literally, a little over a month away. But Shaq, I wanted to get your opinion on this as well because, like John just mentioned, Jim Lowell never landed on the moon, but he was not only a part of Apollo 13, but also Apollo 8, well before obviously Apollo 11, that was the first to land on the moon. So Apollo 8, it was the first, the first manned mission to leave the Earth's gravity to circumnavigate the moon 8 times, I think it was, before they came back. And with that in mind, he had a celebrated career. Obviously, a lot of people who, when you talk about the movies, remember the Apollo 13, the film. How do you best remember Jim Lowell, and what do you think about when you think about his name and the legacy that it left behind?
I think that Jim Lowell, he definitely left an impact on the.
Oh, I think your audio is a little choppy there. Oh.
I mean, he was definitely a permanent, a stamp on that community, and with how technology has evolved, it's nice to see that people dedicated so much of their life, to this idea of space exploration, and so I think that as people who have studied upon that information and went to school for that and just are fascinated with that whole I'm going to use a film term that whole genre. I think that it's our responsibility to pay homage to someone great who has passed from that from that era, I would say. And Apollo 13, it's one of my best films all time, and I still remember Bill Paxton, R.I.P. Very
Also
great
not with
actor,
us
gone
anymore.
way too soon. Yeah, and I'm excited for the re-release. The IMAX re-release. I'm going to be in theaters watching it, so I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And with that, guys, I think we can all agree that a great loss for America and in general just the space loving community. I'm a big space nerd myself, so when I heard this news, I was like heartbroken. I mean, he was 97 years old, so he lived a long life. And Anthony, to answer your question, I don't think he was blamed for the malfunctions on Apollo 13. I don't know if that's something that you've heard or not, but yeah, no, it wasn't because of him. It wasn't anything that the astronauts did. Quite frankly, I think there was an equipment malfunction. But fun fact: the Ron Howard movie, the famous line of "Houston, we've got a problem" is not actually what Jim said in actuality to the recording tapes that they have. He said something a little bit different. It was something like, we have a problem, Houston, or Houston, we might have a problem. And then in the movie, famously, Ron Howard was like, we need to kind of deliver a little more, dramatic impact. So they were like, all right, we're going to change the line up a little bit. And, Tom Hanks then ended up saying the iconic line, Houston, we have a problem, which is, again, not exactly what was said in real life, but nonetheless, most people will always remember it as that. But hey, Jim Lowell, we will remember him and then his contributions to NASA, the space exploration, the world, and hopefully, we'll all be able to go see the IMAX re-release of Apollo 13, September 19, 2025, and go celebrate the legacy of Jim Lowell and his entire crew for Apollo 13. With that, guys, we're going to move on to the next thing. Right now, we have to talk about the weekend box office, because this weekend, we talked about, it was yesterday, actually, on the show, we were talking about, hey, it's looking like Fantastic Four is not going to finish at the top of the pile. In his third weekend, Fantastic Four is looking to finish in third place. Although it's dropping a better than expected 50%, so they were expecting it to be a bigger drop, so that's the good news. But the bad news is, of course, it's no longer going to be the number one movie in North America and most likely in a lot of other countries around the world. The reason for that is because we have, of course, like we talked about yesterday, got Weapons and Freakier Friday coming out. Now, yesterday we were kind of leaning towards the idea By the way, just quickly, hello, Kyle, yo DC homies. Exactly, Monique. Some fun facts about Apollo 13.
Watch it; it's great.
But and Manos Time is here just in time to see John's amazing smile. Hello, everybody.
I don't know about that,
joining us from France. He's in Paris. All right, so as I was saying, yesterday we were talking about Weapons and Freakier Friday being at the top of the box office this weekend. I think the argument I was making is Freakier Friday is going to potentially draw a bigger audience because it's more of a 4-quadrant movie that draws a larger family audience. More kids can go see it, whereas Weapons is more of a rated R movie.
Well,
it is a rated R movie, so.
But I don't know. In the showing I was in for Weapons, somebody brought an infant in with
really?
them. Yeah.
Wow.
So clearly it brings in the kiddos. You know.
Yeah, mine had like an 11-year-old in it, so it was a mom and an 11-year-old.
Okay. Well, I guess
you luckily didn't have to deal with a baby crying at various points throughout the movie.
Oh, no.
All right. So, and we're going to talk about the movie and do a full review.
Sorry,
No, it's all good.
God.
It's all
I'm
good.
sorry,
Actually,
John, you went through that experience.
We apologize, although hopefully the baby's okay too. But hey, just some geeky guy asking an interesting question. We'll address this question when we get to the review, so don't you worry. We did catch your comment. Based kids. Hello, enterprising. Everybody's coming in now. There you go. Such responsible parenting, John. Exactly. Okay, so as I was saying, we were leaning towards Freakier Friday being the higher, movie of the two in terms of the box office this weekend. But today, I was looking at this earlier in the day, and the number that I was seeing was Weapons made $5.7 million in just previews alone on Thursday, whereas Freakier Friday made a little over $3 million. So already Weapons was, ahead, and now they're predicting that Weapons is going to finish with $38 million or more over the course of the weekend, and Freakier Friday going to come in right around 30 million. So I want to get your reactions to this. I mean, Ishak, you've seen, I don't know if you've seen Freakier Friday, but I know you've obviously seen Weapons. Are you surprised that a movie that is aimed at more of a 4-quadrant family audience like Freakier Friday, also a Disney movie, is not going to do as well as, a horror film from a director that, quite frankly, I mean, outside of Weapons, he's done Barbarian and a few other things, but nothing that is too mainstream. And yet his movie, which is, by the way, a Warner Brothers picture, is probably going to start out at the top of the pile this weekend. Another number one, opening at the box office for Warner Brothers this year. How surprised are you that this is how this is going to play out? Like, 2 Disney movies are going to, finish second and third over a small horror film. I mean, that's got some, big actors in it, but like, what do you think?
Okay, so first and foremost, I mean, I am sort of surprised, but not really surprised that much because, Freakier Friday, that's kind of like a legacy sequel, kind of, like how you can compare it, like Naked Gun,
Yeah.
I would say,
Mhm.
I was surprised at the amount of people that actually went to see Naked Gun as well. Wasn't like my favorite movie, but Zach Cregger, the director behind Weapons, a lot of people seem to forget that, he made an exceptional film, Barbarian. And I remember going to see it, with my little brother, and, we just went in with no expectations. We didn't see any of the previews, and it just caught us off guard. And I always stayed until the end of the credits, and I was like, okay, like, who made this movie? I want to know the fucking name, the director, like, who is this guy? Zach Cregger. And then after that, his project, went on board, and it went through a bidding war. I heard all the stories. Jordan Peele apparently fired, like, one of his assistants or something.
He was so
because they
mad. He
lost
was like,
the bid.
He actually fired his whole management team because they
Wow.
couldn't get, I think it was distribution or the script for this movie.
Okay.
And he was pissed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember
And it
that.
was
We actually
supposed
talked
to-
about it on the show. Yeah.
And it was actually another fun fact. It was supposed to have a release date of, I think it was January of next year, but the movie got overwhelmingly positive test screenings, not even
They pushed
premiere
it
or
back.
anything.
Yeah, they pushed
Test
back
screenings,
the release
test
date.
screenings that they pushed it to August of this
Yep.
year, obviously, because we're talking about it. So it was,
Yeah.
it got 6 months pushback because it was that good.
Wow.
So
That's awesome. And
that's
then
saying a lot.
The other thing is, they are marketing it as, the suit from the minds behind the, it and like the Conjuring films, and like I think that also plays a big factor into that. And I feel like horror is just one of those genres that it's not forgotten, but it's getting its big rise nowadays. As I mentioned, before we even started the show, this is something we were talking about backstage a couple weeks ago. I got to meet director Michael Shanks, the director of the film Together.
Nice.
And we were talking about, just how body horror is getting its rise, right?
Yeah.
And how it's being implemented. And if you've seen Together, that directors like John Carpenter, from The Thing, he was a big inspiration for Together. And even
Oh
Michael
yeah, of
Shanks himself
course.
said that. He said,
Cronenberg, I assume too.
someone in the audience during the Q&A asked him, like, which director was one of your biggest inspirations for Together? And the first thing he said was like, oh, fucking John Carpenter for sure. And so horror is definitely getting a big shift in Hollywood. So I'm glad that Weapons is doing, it's doing phenomenal, and I'm glad that I was able to see it almost a week before the general audience. I was in shock. I was in awe. Last night I took both of my little brothers, over 21. Okay, just want to put that out there. They're not like eight. They're not like 15. Okay,
They're not the baby that I watched the film with
exactly.
this afternoon.
And it was funny because I was sitting next to them. I was like, "You guys are in for a fucking ride, man!" And I can't wait to see your reaction, because during the beginning, the first half of the movie, you think it's something, and I'm not getting into spoilers right now. But the second half, it's a completely different ride, man. Like, it's just different, And so I'm happy that I got to see it, and I loved it. My rating for Weapons would be, I'd say, like 8.5 out of 10. A little nitpicking here and there. So
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I wasn't on camera. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it more in a few minutes, but it's so far, obviously, like you guys are speaking to it, the movie looks to be doing really well, and it's getting off to another #1 start for Warner Brothers, which is going to be the first time that it will do that in quite a while. So it's becoming evident that Warner Brothers is having one of the all-time, well, not an all-time, but it's been a long time since Warner Brothers has had this many #1 openings. So
yeah,
and the Freaker Friday numbers as well look quite impressive overall. I mean, John, you look at these numbers, and Fantastic Four is coming in at #3. I think it's meant to make like 20 million some odd. So like right there, what do you think about those numbers? If you guys want to quickly, and the Bad Guys too as well. Like, what were your thoughts on there? That they're kind of rounding out your top 5.
Yeah, I think it's definitely nice to see like certain movies that maybe wouldn't make it huge or anything, but something as big as Weapons, like something not as big as Weapons getting something that big is definitely a highlight. So love to see it. That is just wonderful as a horror fan, if you fucking couldn't tell. But I think it's great for Weapons. I think it's, as you mentioned before, I think it's great for Naked Gun, for like the pure comedy that we haven't gotten in so long. Something as strange as Body Horror managing to snag 17 million during its opening weekend, especially up against big movies like Superman and Fantastic Four and all these other things. But the fact that like it made that Weapons made double that, more than double that, is just that's I mean, I think like people heard, I think the general audience is because my theater wasn't full, but it was still like all 3 showings that I was looking at today, because I wasn't sure when I would be able to get down there. All of them were full. Like the 7:00 showing, obviously that was the most booked, because it's people are coming home from work, and that's or home from school or whatever, so they're going to be catching that show time, and that was like the most full, and I was like, this is great to see. And it's just, I think I think 2025 has been solid. I think like at first you're like, oh, we're not sure, and then like it just like as the latter half of the year rolls in, we're getting some goated movies, not gonna lie. And then especially as Shaq was saying, the horror stuff is like, which makes me as a horror fan real happy.
I feel like that another, reason for the success of horror films right now is that directors have, more creative control over their projects. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure that you guys heard about the deal that Ryan Coogler struck with,
Hmm.
the movie
With Sinners.
Sinners,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And apparently, like, after I think 20-25 years, something like that, he's gonna like own the complete rights to that
Hmm.
film. And
Hmm.
like that was just a, like a sort of like a, like a, if I can do this, other directors can also do this, right?
Although there was a lot of uproar, and I think in a lot of ways it makes sense that most studio heads will not want to give that level of freedom to any director because it's their money, right? It's not like Ryan, because I for one kind of like fall on the side of Ryan Coogler didn't pay for the movie, so the studio did. So I appreciate that they're letting him have the rights to the movie basically after what was like 25 years, like you said. So at that point, the movie's basically made all the money that it's gonna make, and it's not like
For
he's gonna be
sure.
making a sequel. So I think in that sense, it felt like more of a one-off. At least that's what Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi were saying, because they can't say anything else, otherwise they would be in trouble. And because not only are them causing trouble for Warner Brothers at that point, because then Warner Brothers like, we're paying for these movies and we don't actually own them, like we don't get to profit off them years down the road, and then it will set a precedent for the other studios to also then have to give in to directors like that. Like Christopher Nolan doesn't own his own movies technically either. So, but hello, Fiona is in the chat as well. Sinners was awesome, Patrick, and Antonio's here. Apparently, it's been done before. It's just people chose to be complaining about him doing it. Yeah, it's not the first time. Quentin Tarantino is a big example of that. I think we mentioned that before as well. But yeah. And Kevin is here. Sinners wasn't Ryan Coogler's best, the all Black Panther franchise, and Creed is way better. Okay,
I
yeah.
would say Creed is probably better, but it's way better than Black Panther. It's like not even close.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier that we have, of course, a Fantastic Four coming in at 3. Naked Gun pretty much still in the top 5. But then, of course, while we were talking about big milestones at the box office, F1 the movie. Literally, John can attest to this. Before the show started, as I was like setting things up, I was listening to the soundtrack of F1. So, and I've been doing that like constantly. Hello, Emo Nerdco. How are you doing? So as you can see here in the article, F1 has finally zoomed past $560 million at the worldwide box office. It's basically the biggest surprise hit of the summer because, John, you and I both talked about how we weren't expecting this movie to make more than like 400 million, maybe at best. And it's clearly gone way beyond that. So at this point, it shouldn't even surprise us because we've been talking about it for so long. But Shaq, have you seen this movie yet? What did you think about F1? Are you surprised it's making as much money? It's basically almost made as much money as Mission Impossible did this year, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Okay, so I forgot to mention before, as something fun that I like to do is review popcorn buckets. So for those watching, if you guys go on TikTok, my handle is Bucket King, and I actually did both of the helmets for F1. So I did the one for Sonny Hayes, which is Brad Pitt, and then I also did the one for the other main character, the African American gentleman. I can't remember his character name from
Oh,
the
James and
film.
Idris. Yeah.
Yes, and
I forget what his character name is. But
yeah,
that was
character
his
name.
right.
I forget too. But I think it's just one of those feel good movies that you go to and you just have a good time. Like I went with my dad, and he was a big fan of Joseph Kosinski from Top Gun Maverick. He helmed
As
that film
everyone
very
is.
well, and
Yep.
I just thought that this is definitely a nice, I'm not going to say comeback, but like a definitely good return to the screen for Brad Pitt. And, I enjoyed like, that they went to Abu Dhabi where Formula One racing
Mhm.
actually, is held.
Oh, they went to
And
several of them actually, right? Like it wasn't just, but
yes, the
yes,
Grand
yeah.
Prix. Yep. I think in Vegas and a
They
bunch
did
of other places.
yeah, Abu
Yep.
Dhabi, Vegas. They also, I think they did the one that just took place this season, the Belgian Grand Prix. I think they were there. They're at the Spa track
Wow.
as well.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it is kind of wild to, well, they drove on real tracks with basically almost as real an F1 car as you can
Yeah.
possibly get, and they were built by Mercedes, which is one of the big teams
Yeah.
Lewis
And
Hamilton used to drive
I
for.
I would
So
say one of my favorite, just to mention like a quick moment from the film. I'm sure
mhm.
by now a lot of people have already seen it, so it's not really a spoiler. Well, kind of sort of is, but in that moment when he mentions that, I've never been able to achieve where I'm just lost for like 30 seconds. And then that's how he ends up winning the last race, where he says, I want that moment where I'm lost and I'm flying for like 30 seconds. And like just that whole moment, like the movie theater I was in was packed, and it was nothing but silence. And then everyone was just like gasping. Everyone was just like, oh my god, like he's fucking doing it, right? He's flying. Like it's crazy. Because the girl, on the intercom, she's like, he's doing it, and that's just, man, just nice moments like that, man. That's why we go back to the movies. Shout out to Nicole Kidman. From
We
AMC
need that,
theaters,
all of us.
we make movies better.
Because
I mean, at this point, I might hate the Nicole Kidman ad. I'll still take it over the breakdancing Coke ad. Like, I fucking hate that goddamn breakdancing Coke ad.
Yes.
Like, it's so fucking.
I hate that ad too
so much. I'll take 1,000 Nicole Kidman over the stupid Coke ad.
The choreography is
either have
terrible.
one or the other. Don't have both. Loser.
Yeah.
By the way, which movie theater do you guys go to the most? I meant to ask that from Danny, you, and also John, you as well. Is it Cinemark? Is it AMC? Or is it Regal? You gotta tell the fans.
AMC, that's the only one that's near me now. I used to have 2 showcase cinemas near me, but one closed right before the pandemic and one closed during the pandemic. So, it's sad, but it's only like a 15 to 20 minute drive, which isn't bad, a little annoying. But yeah, it used to be Bowtie, but then AMC bought out Bowtie. Yeah. So then
it's been a long time since they've been around.
Yeah.
What about you, Daniel?
RIP.
I go to mostly an AMC, but then because there's an AMC near me, there's an AMC, but wherever I usually end up, there's AMCs around. Like whether I'm at work in the Stamford area in Connecticut, there's AMCs there. Up where I am right now, there's AMCs in New Jersey. So they are obviously the biggest theater chain. So, but then I also, because I have an A-list membership for AMC, that's also why I go there, because I have a movie theater in my town, and they're not like a big chain. They're a smaller chain, but they're not like a known name. The theater is good, but then once you get tied into the loyalty program and you have the ability to see 4 movies a week for one flat rate for the month, that's you can't beat that. But I also have been I saw Superman in Regal, and that was a really weird experience because they played the wrong movie. Then we had to wait 90 minutes, but it was an early screening, so sometimes that happens. And then I've also got a Cinemark membership as well. So I have
the only thing I hate about Cinemark is they give you 1 movie credit though. It's like it's not enough. It's not enough to fuel the movie geek.
Yeah, I hear you. But I mean, hey, we gotta say hello to Marco. Marco Ramos is there. Hello, everybody, all the way from Portugal. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we're not going to be here tomorrow because it's a Saturday. But you know what? We'll be back on Monday. But hey, the show is only just getting started. Don't you worry. We are going to be here for a while.
And we have a Fancast Friday to do as well. So, boom, we got 2 shows today. So technically, if we're counting Tier List Tuesdays and Fancast Fridays, which is now going to be its own separate show, and we're going to try and do that more often, you're technically getting 7 shows in 5 days.
Yes.
That makes up the rest of the week. So
exactly.
Just view it like that.
That's a really great way of saying it. Actually, and then before we finish up the box office conversation, because we then have to review the movie itself, I think there was a comment here from Angelica in the chat, which was interesting. And I think we have to kind of point this out because, yes, that means that F1, the movie, has kind of now come up on level terms with Superman. It's not ahead of Superman, because the official numbers, as of what they're reporting, let me see if I can pull this up again. So F1 currently sitting just under 560. They're saying it's going to cross 560 officially over the weekend. These numbers are a day behind. But Superman has already passed that. Superman's 565. And Superman's going to be in theaters a bit longer as well. So ultimately, Superman will probably end up winning the overall battle. But that's not to say like you have to watch one or the other. I've seen both. I can tell you they're both fun. I personally actually enjoyed F1 a lot more. Yeah, exactly. By the way, Fiona, we should be telling the folks to go back and watch the shows from earlier in the week. We actually did a summer blockbuster tier list on Tuesday, including Superman, F1, and Ballerina, all 3 of whom we're going to be talking about in today's show. So we didn't have Weapons on there because none of us had seen it at that point, and Shaq wasn't on the show, so he couldn't talk about it. But anyway, we might do an updated version of the tier list next week. All right. Hey, we got Mario Faith Warrior here as well. Hello, what's up, everybody? Tom Cruise and Sinners 2. There's not going to be a Sinners 2, but maybe if there was. So Superman could finish with 635. I mean, it's not impossible. It just depends on the international box office, because domestically, I think it's probably not going to catch the Batman, which is 369 is the number there. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's doing well. Superman's still doing really, really well. In fact, they have the August 7th number from yesterday, and it's still making over $1 million a day, right? Where you look at F1 right now, F1, you can see it's been playing longer, and now the last 4 days in a row, it's not made more than $1 million. So F1 is also in its currently 43rd day of release, which is basically a month and a half, whereas Superman is currently in its 28th day of release, and not even a full month, unless you count February as your marker. But hey, with that, we're gonna move the ball along here. Let's get into some movie talk madness, as we like to say, shall we? So now it's part of movie talk madness. We have to review weapons. Before we talk about weapons, I know you guys were mentioning earlier before the show, it seems to be, you know what, having done the show now long enough, I think I've been doing this podcast for like 4 or 5 years at this point. I can tell you guys that almost every year we do a show, at least once or twice, where the conversation comes up about, man, horror movies are really making a comeback, and like they're just like, a surefire way to like make money, because they're not that expensive, and so their break-even point is not that high. But here's another movie, Weapons, that's doing kind of the same thing. And Zach Cregger, of course, has done a few others like it, like Barbarian. I know, Shaq, you wanted to kind of quickly mention the horror genre. And also, John, you were a big fan of the horror genre. So of all the horror movies that you've seen this year, where does Weapons stack for you? And then, after that, we'll talk about the movie itself. We'll do a review. But in general, what does Weapons mean for the horror genre too?
If I had to say, I think it's probably my third favorite this year. I liked it more than Together. So, I think it's an excellent movie, and I think, in terms of horror has always been, as my friend called it, recession proof. It's, no matter what happens, it's always going to make money because they're made for super cheap. And even then, you have like surprisingly the amount of known people that are in this. Like you have like, if we're talking about specifically Weapons, you have Julia Gardner, who was just in Fantastic Four. You have Josh Brolin, who's Thanos. You have Benedict Wong, who is Wong in, and I'm not just talking about Marvel. I'm just talking about, these are well-known names that might grab some people. I know that there's no such thing as stardom anymore. Nobody goes to movies for the stars anymore. But it's nice to see, like, because I remember when I was talking about it with my dad, because I don't have a car, so I need to borrow my parents' cars. So we had to try and work out the scheduling for when I could go. And they were like, and they always try to ask, like, what's it about? I think, and they're like, it's got like all these known people. I kind of want to see it now because of all these well-known people. I'm like, it's kind of a weirder movie, so I don't know. And frankly, this is a movie that my parents would never, ever watch. Very, very weird. And I think like my mom would kind of like the mystery aspect of it. But I told her the ending, which I'm not going to get into right now. We're going to get into it much later. And she's like, yeah, no, not watching that. Not watching that. So I think, I think Weapons is definitely, I think it's Barbarian, but done better, like in a weird, in terms of the structure, because I feel like a lot of people, and this is understandable, even as someone who liked the movie, that the tonal whiplash in the middle is too much for people. Because it like literally turns into a completely different movie. Well, here you have that, you do like have like a big twist that like, this is what's happening, but it still kind of remains to the ground and still sets out what it plans to do from the beginning, So I feel like he definitely toned down the twist, but it's still like, it still gives you those amazing twists. and those amazing and I was thinking about this, a good way to explain it. When you think this movie is gonna go left, it goes upside down. Like when you think it's gonna go right, it does a corkscrew. So it's just like when you think even that maybe it could do something else, it goes like just completely off the wall. And I appreciate that. And it's still like worked within the structure of what it set out to do. And what was so great about the movie to me was it is a bit hard to say, but it's just like the engaging mystery of it all. I was on the edge of my seat, like, where is this going to go? Not in sort of just of a curiosity. Like, it was so engaging because I'm like, I have no clue how the fuck this is going to end. And then it just absolutely is. I was enthralled. And I think the performances definitely.
Hi, Batman Bats.
It definitely added to that. Speaking of, Batman does make a cameo in this movie. If you know, you know. I think it, the performances definitely boosted up. It's just like Julia Gardner, like she's definitely, in terms of this year, just everything she's done has just gotten better. But like Wolfman, not a good movie at all, kind of dog shit. And then you bump it up like, I liked Fantastic Four. I didn't love it as much as everyone else did, but that was a lot. But she was one of the best parts of that movie. The Silver Surfer in that movie was excellent. I just wish her fucking, turncoat was set up properly. And then this was just, she portrayed like a level of emotional depth and a character that was like, you felt for her, but she was also kind of a bitch. And you kind of feel for her, but at the same time, there's like certain moments here and there where it's like, I can't think of a thing wrong with this movie. I genuinely can't. But Shaq, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. I feel like I've been talking too long. So
no, John, we always love the enthusiasm. You weren't talking too long. It was great. Okay, so weapons. I saw it at a press screening, and then I saw it, as I mentioned again, with some family members last night. Both times, different reactions from the crowd, and a lot of people, were expecting it to be kind of like a slow burn. And I may agree with some people. At some parts it kind of is a little bit, but it does not take any time diving into what it is. Once the movie starts, again, not getting into any spoilers, but the premise, right? A bunch of kids from a classroom go missing in a small town. Everyone's blaming Julia Gardner, who plays the teacher, and then Josh Brolin plays a father who's the parent of one of the children that went missing. Each and every actor, delivered their best, but I think the one who stole the show is Josh Brolin, because it's just something about him, when he talks, when he's like, how'd you let this happen? Only these kids from your classroom went fucking missing. And it's just like that, that aura, man. Like when he delivers those lines, it's just, man, you can really feel it, that he really feels like he, fucked up as a father, and he wants his kid back home. And,
especially with the stuff that happens with Matthew when we see that later on in the movie as well.
Yes,
most definitely.
And, you really feel for the parent, so the performances were definitely, top notch. I am glad that Zach Cregger got a bigger budget with weapons. He was able to cast much more expensive actors, and for some reason, I'm going to get into this later, but there's someone that appears in Weapons where I deep down knew he was going to be in the movie, because he was in another Zach Cregger film, and I was like, okay, when is he coming? Oh, there he is. Okay, yep, he's in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's in it for a brief period of time, you know who I'm talking about, John. But I was glad that he was included in that. And the premiere for this film, I loved the marketing for it. Like when they did the first show times for each day, when it was released on Thursday, the show timings on each, of my movie theater apps was coming as 2:17 p.m. That's the exact time that the kids went missing in the film, 2:17 a.m. in the morning. So I like how they kind of played on that and how they marketed the film with that. And then even at the premiere, they had, I saw a couple of behind the scenes looks. They had Josh Brolin sit with a couple of kids dressed as like clowns or whatever with makeup on, like scary looking makeup. And it's the same setting from the trailer, like when Julia Garner walks in and she sees the kids, like the undead or whatever kids, and she gets scared. It's the same, they kind of played on that at the premiere. So I really like the marketing for the film. And again, it's directors kind of outshining, getting out of their comfort zone, playing with bigger budgets, with horror films. And I'm glad that they're doing that. It's similar to have you guys seen the trailer for Shelby Oaks with Chris Stuckman, the YouTuber?
I was shocked. I was shocked how good that looks, because Chris Stuckman has been a very controversial figure in terms of the YouTube space. There's the whole thing with Madam Web and how he's been handling reviews as of late. So I hope it's good. So, and the trailer I was blown away by.
Yeah, and I heard that Neon gave him $1 million reshoot, so he actually got extra money to do reshoots on the film.
And here's the thing about that. Sorry if I'm cutting you off, but I did want to mention this because I know people have shit on those specific reshoots because they think it's like some fat cat being like, give me more blood, give me more gore. But what it really is, there were a bunch of scenes in the script that Chris Stuckman couldn't shoot on his budget. And Neon saw the script and they're like, hey, what's with all this other stuff that you didn't shoot? He's like, well, I didn't have the budget. Well, they're like, here, the stuff that he intended to shoot but couldn't. They're like, here's more money to shoot some stuff that you wanted to include but couldn't. And I feel like it just goes to show how Neon is getting up there. Like, don't get me wrong, like A24 is still king for right now, but Neon, they're getting up, especially with Oz Perkins as their golden goose now. That's also really good. But Bleecker Street is also a really good one too.
Yep. I was gonna say that Neon is definitely it's upcoming, just like A24 is now, and I'm glad that indie filmmakers are approaching these studios, and these studios are approaching YouTubers, indie filmmakers, even like TikTokers
is another one
to make movies. Yeah, I mean, I heard that there was a kid that made like a short film on YouTube, and now Neon apparently gave him like a couple $1 million to make this into a feature film, and I'm glad that they're showcasing talent like that. But getting back to with Weapons, the film, I love the fact that the film is it's kind of like, how do I explain this? With Barbarian, you can kind of with Weapons, you can also kind of guess what like not the ending, but like what the premise is going to be, and sort of like with but it's very different with Barbarian. Like Barbarian, you didn't know like what the ending was going to be. Like for me personally, I kind of knew what the ending for Weapons was going to be, and I feel like some people can predict that, but that definitely is not going to be taking away from the ultimate movie experience.
I didn't expect it.
Yeah. So I definitely, urge people to go see it and, support Zach Cregger, for the movie. So definitely check it out. Yeah.
And also Emo Nerd Girl. It's not very gory. I mean, it's gory at the end, but it's not incredible. I mean, there's like maybe like 3 scenes of gore.
Yeah. There's some extreme scenes of gore in it, but it's definitely not a movie you want to take your kids to see. I highly urge against that.
Newborn infant, but but yeah, I mean, as I was saying before, in my review of the film, the performances just blew me away with how good they were. I also like how Cregger nailed, for me personally, I know a lot of people got taken out of this. I know Geeky Guy did, but for me personally, I think Cregger mastered, considering he has a comedy background with Whitest Kids You Know, but I think with especially in the second half of the movie, not as much the first half. The first half was more about the mystery. The second half was like how everything was unfolding, but I love how he nailed the kind of Sam Raimi Evil Dead 2 level of horror comedy where you're like, And I think M. Night Shyamalan did this rather okay in The Visit as well. When you're like laughing, but you're like uncomfortably laughing, like, should I be laughing at this? And I'm like, ha ha, but you're like kind of terrified with what's going on, and you're like, ha ha ha. And I think there's like plenty of, mainly horror comedies are like funny in like a horror setting, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, one of my favorites, one of the greatest horror comedies of all time. But and I'm not saying that one is better than the other because it nails to do different things. This, I think, and I wouldn't label this as a horror comedy, but like in terms of those more comedic scenes, it's like he nails the uncomfortableness of like the horror of the situation, but also the comedy of the situation, and blended those two things like nearly perfectly. So, also, Patrick said, who's your favorite horror actor and horror actress? You did show that. I did want to quickly mention that because I know people have been commenting on that. For me, horror actor is probably Bruce Campbell, because Bruce Campbell's a legend and Bruce Campbell's fucking amazing. But if I had to say horror actress, that's a tough one. I would say Heather Langenkamp is up there. I do like Danielle Harris a lot. Jamie Lee Curtis is, of course, even though she kind of grew out of the horror thing until she got pushed back with H2O and later Halloween sequels. But I mean, there's so many there's so many great scream queens out there. Like Jill Schoelen is another great one. Jenna Ortega is kind of becoming a modern scream queen in a way. Mia Goth is another great one. Thank you for that, Supavash. But I think if I like gun to my head as of right now, I'd probably say Heather Langenkamp, but I'm sure it'll change tomorrow because I'm probably forgetting someone that I love and, can't think of it off the top of my head. What would yours be? I'm just curious.
Let's see.
If you can think of them. So many.
Oh, man. Let's see. Male actors from a horror film. I did like, and I know this is like funny, but I did like George Clooney from Dusk Till Dawn. I just feel like he was very into that role, and he was just like a badass and just like very mean, and someone that, you're like, you like, but then you also don't like. You're like, man, this guy's like a fucking asshole,
And, he delivered one of the best lines in horror film history. He's like, "You shall be my slave until the end of time." And he's like, "No, sorry, I've already been married." Like, fucking such a great fucking line. I mean, it's Tarantino, so it works. Yes. Oh, Nev Campbell's another one. Perfect, great. I mean, if we're going into classics, oh my God, Vince. I mean, Vince. Like, I think they're in their own like bubble of greatness. Like, they can't even like be. It's just like they're better, they're greater, they're more like Vincent Price, Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee. Just any of those guys are just fucking absolutely brilliant in terms of horror. Like, but that's like. Or like Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, they're just on another fucking plane of existence that like, that's just kind of like the demeanor of everything. Like, yeah, it's those guys are just above everyone else, no matter Lon Chaney, both senior and junior. Like, I would
say for female, it would have to be Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, the one who was stabbed in Psycho by Norman Bates.
Yeah, Janet Leigh. Yes.
Yes, Janet Leigh. Yes. So I would say those would be like my male and female. I mean, obviously there's a lot more. There's many others. And I wanted to throw this out there since we were talking about box office numbers. This is kind of like an open discussion, thing for you and Daniel as well. Do you guys think that this movie Weapons could potentially pull off what it did with the box office? Like, it was made like on a $50 million budget, I think, and then it made over like $700 million or some shit. And then like just Warner Brothers was like so happy it spawned like a sequel and toys and a bunch of other shit. So like, do you guys think that could happen? Just kind of mixing it in with box office numbers.
I don't think it'll get that big because again, we're in a post-COVID world, so we gotta account for that and kind of the dying movie theater theory. I don't think it'll get to 700 million, but I could see this getting to like especially with the opening, and if it stays in movie theaters long enough, I could see this getting 300 to 400 million, maybe 5 if like we're being nice. But yeah, I think it'll definitely could reach that. Definitely.
I think the ceiling. Here's the thing. This is what I'll say about weapons. And then, by the way, we're gonna get into the spoilers right after what I'm gonna just say, because I do want to have you guys kind of give us a little bit more insight into the movie. Because to answer the question just some geeky guy has been asking, we will talk about spoilers, so don't you worry. But the ceiling for this movie, here's what I will say overall: what can it accomplish? Horror movies don't always do great internationally. They'll do better domestically for the most part, but that's not to say they can't.
That's a culture thing mainly.
Yeah. It is more of a franchise, so I think that's a bit of an exception to the rule in terms of how much money it made. Like if this was Weapons 2 or 3 and like the first one did really well.
Super chat.
Thank you, Nelson, by the way. Hello and welcome on in. I just want to actually, before I even finish with my thought, got Tony in the chat, Emo Nerdgal, obviously Noah, and who else do we have? Superwash is here as well. Hugo Millie saying the Also Curious universe is growing. Yes, it absolutely is. We got Shaq on the show today. Batman Bats is here. Was talking about how we've got a lot of good horror characters in the DC universe. We'll be talking about that later. We got a Clayface topic as well. There's a question for Shaq. We will save that, Anthony. I do have that saved up for later. And then we have a couple of super chats from Justin Geeky Guy and Nelson.
Bunch of questions, and I want to apologize because I haven't been. If they pop up and then they go so quick.
Yeah,
thank you, Daniel, for that.
We will get into those in a minute. But just to quickly answer, I think the ceiling for weapons is, given that it's going to start off somewhere around 40 million. I have a feeling at most it's because the horror movies tend to leg out better if they're really good than like superhero movies, which are much more front loaded. They make a lot, like Fantastic Four made a lot of its money up front. Superman, is doing much better relative to that. But I would say if it's making around 40 million opening weekend, overall it probably finishes at most with like 160 million. I think that would be a really good number. If it gets anywhere close to 100, I'll be like, they'll be going, to the bank and cashing those checks at Warner Brothers. They'll be popping bottles. And having said that, internationally, I don't imagine it's going to make, as much. So
out of curiosity, what was the budget for this, Daniel?
I believe I thought it was like 80 million. Was it? Like, am I wrong on that number? Johnny can verify that for us. But because I think the other day we were talking about the Bad Guys 2 budget, and I do remember like the budget for this was not that far off the mark. And even though they have some big actors in this movie, it's not really, the kind of movie where, you're paying, I don't know, like 50 million to RDJ or something like that. I just think overall
the budget was 38 million.
38. So that's not even half of what I just said. So 38 million is going to make that money back in its opening weekend domestically. Overall, I think the ceiling for this movie is around 300 million. Overall, a really optimistic take would say 400, but I think that's a little out there. I think Sinners did it make 400? I feel like Sinners ultimately ended up with like somewhere around like Black Adam numbers, right? Let me actually see if I can find it.
I think it was around like, was it 300 million or something?
365. Like yes. So see that I would say, like, if this movie hits 300, for Warner Brothers to have 2 horror movies that hit 300 million or more in 1 year and be really rated well, because let's just quickly take a look at the Rotten Tomatoes for this movie. It's currently sitting at a damn near perfect 96%. Yesterday was 97. It's dropped down a percentage point. Certified fresh. The audience scores are still in the 90s. So it's doing really, really well. By the way, Frankie G is saying I'm a bounce, spoiler talk starts. Yeah, but you know what? We do have a lot of other stuff coming up later in the show, Frankie. So do come back in after if you can. But hey, I want to, speaking of which, talk about the spoilers now. With that in mind, you guys can take it in whichever direction you want to take it, because I haven't seen the movie, so I'm not going to want to have it spoiled for myself.
How much spoilers do you like? Do you want it completely spoiled or what? Like, what are we talking about?
Okay, so fair warning to everybody watching. There's a spoiler warning on the graphic. We're gonna talk spoilers about weapons. I'm going to step away for a second. So John, you can like send me a signal when we're back.
I'll send it. I'll text you.
Okay. So Shaq and John, you guys get into the spoiler talk, like especially the ending, the twists and turns. I know just some geeky guys been anxious to talk about spoilers, so let's dive into that part of the movie. And then also, I think if you guys want to address, there were some really fun quotes from the director Zach Cregger talking about his process with this movie. I'll see if I can bring that article in later in the show. But he just how he made the film, and there was like a late casting change because I think Pedro Pascal was meant to be in this movie. So I don't know if you guys know about that, but like there's a lot to get into. So I'll let you guys take over, and then I'll step back in once you guys give me the all clear. So.
Okay. John, you want to let me start?
Yeah, sure. You could start. I filibustered a little bit too long, so you could start now.
All right. Let's see. So last Tuesday, I drove about 5 hours to go see this. An executive from Warner Brothers was actually present at the screening while I was there, and they distributed forms, to get feedback from people. And some of the questions were like, how surprised were you at like the ending, and what could you take away from the film, what could have been improved, stuff like that. So obviously the director, Zach Cregger, he took inspiration, at least what I think is from, somewhat from Quentin Tarantino with, the filming style. So once they show what is going on with the town and how the kids disappeared and like the setup, first and foremost, you dive right into it. So, the first like opening scene you can say is directly from like the trailers. How when the girl is narrating, she goes, in a small town, in Mrs. Gandy's class, these kids disappeared, yada yada. They dive right into it, so they waste no time with the setup. You're on a roller coaster, and they press the button, and they're like, "Fucking take off!" Boom, that's it.
Mhm.
And then each story is told from a different narrative. So Josh Brolin's narrative, you have Julia Gardner's narrative, you have her boyfriend, well, semi-boyfriend, I'll say. He plays a police officer. I don't know the actor's name. And then there's
Alden
also
Ehrenreich is his name.
okay. Thank you, John. And then also, there's a homeless man. You get the narrative from his point of view. And then there's a kid. I do not know his name either, but does a phenomenal job acting. John, do you know the little kid? His name. The one
Harry
who's in the house.
Christopher, I think
The
his
weird.
name was.
Okay. Okay. So he delivers a very good performance. And, as mentioned earlier in, the podcast, I was talking about an actor who I knew was going to be, well, I kind of had this 80% feeling that he was going to be in the film. The actor Justin Long from Jeepers Creepers and also Barbarian. He
Yes.
is the one who comes in after Bill Skarsgård gets his head smashed in, and then the next scene is like, cut to black, and then he's driving. Justin Long, he's like the second character the third character that enters in the film. So Justin Long did have a cameo in this film. I was very happy to see him. It's just always nice just to see Justin Long, man. Like he's just a fucking, a great, goofy, and funny actor. And I feel like he's one of those actors that kind of gets overlooked, in Hollywood. So I'm glad, when he's in stuff, and I'm glad that Zach Cregger kind of brought him back as the parent of, one of the kids that went missing. And then also there's some grotesque scenes. There's a scene of a guy smashing in another guy's head with his head, like very brutally. Then there's some scenes of them showing hands cutting up and blood squirting out, and someone vomiting puke in the form of like black sputum. So it's and Benedict Wong is also in it. He plays the principal. I don't remember if they did a POV of his story.
They
No, they
did.
did. They did. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely, they did. And funny enough, this actress, okay, I'm going to talk about her because I just was watching Uncle Buck the other day on Netflix.
Yes.
Old fucking movie. John's like, yes, Shaq's talking about it. Old fucking movie, man, and great movie. I love, Macaulay Culkin plays in it. He's in it. He's a little kid in it. It's one of his first films ever in Hollywood. And R.I.P. to the actor who played Uncle Buck. He was a great John Campio or no
John Candy.
John Candy, yes. He died, and great actor, gone way too soon, and he was in Uncle Buck. So his love interest in Uncle Buck, the girlfriend, she's in this film and she plays the main antagonist. And I was just shocked. I was like, wow, they brought her back for Weapons of all movies, and she's playing like the bad, the bad character. Um, in the beginning of the movie, you're led to believe that the children disappeared because of a scientific, like, horror, like, experiment, like a military experiment, right? But at the end of the film, you realize that they actually were being hypnotized by some sort of witchcraft, like some witchery. And the person that was doing the witchcraft and witchery was indeed this woman who was in the movie Uncle Buck from back in the day. So she was
Yep.
the one. She played the the aunt of one of the children, and this is that same kid actor that I was mentioning earlier who did a phenomenal job.
He did.
You also get a POV story of from his point of view, and
Essentially revealing the entire, like, what happened.
what happened. Yep, because he is the only kid who does not disappear from the classroom, and Josh Brolin kind of figures it out by the end
Yes.
that what happened. And his aunt was the one who was doing witchcraft and hypnotizing these people to make them into weapons, which is, I'm sure, how Zach Cregger kind of got the title. Because once you're under that spell, man, boom, like it will activate you. The spell will activate you, to go murder someone. And until you've completed your task, you are not stopping. You are literally just, you're on your target. You're on target. You're just gonna finish the job.
A heat-seeking missile, as Josh Brolin put it in the film.
Yes, exactly. And the ending, and also throughout the movie, you're going to get hints of comedy. And I thought that some of the comedy was brilliant. And one of the nitpicks that I'm going to talk about, with the movie is the ending. It just didn't work for me, unfortunately. I know many people have different viewpoints on that a lot, but when I got home and I looked online and I looked at some of the comment threads on Facebook and stuff, this is what people were talking about. They were like, we had nothing like wrong. There was nothing wrong with the movie. We had no problem with anything, but that ending, like they sped up to that ending. The ending was a little fast paced. They didn't take their time with the ending. And it was just a little bit too much of a comedic ending. And it should have been a little bit more serious. But again, that's nitpicking. Overall, like I said, my rating would be 8.5 for the film, and it's definitely a movie that you guys want to go check out. So that was my review. I'm happy that I got to see it. I can't wait to see it for a third time. I'm going to take some friends this time who have not seen it. Maybe
Yeah.
John, you could join us. Oh, I know you've already seen it. Oh,
I mean, I would go see it again. I'd go
Okay,
see it
all right,
again.
for sure.
I'd go see it with a
I don't
group
know
of
if
people.
Daniel's seen it either, but he's.
I mean, I wish I could bring my friends to see it, but they, time and schedules and work and can't. I think. So I agree with pretty much most of your points. I don't think the ending was fast paced at all. That's the only thing I disagree. I don't think it was like very like fast paced or anything like that. I think it was maybe a little silly. Maybe it goes too into the comedic, but I still think it kind of worked because it was kind of, I view it like this. You know what? With the amount of fucked up shit we've seen, the amount of trauma we've gone through, the amount of disturbing shit, we kind of get a weird sort of levity and relief by the end because eventually these kids are going to catch up with this old, like, decrepit woman, like, and they're going to get, I mean, you have like 17 kids, like, and this old hag of a woman, they're going to catch up to her eventually, especially, the heat-seeking missile part.
Yeah.
And I think it was like sort of with what they do to her. I'm not going to mention it for anybody with a bad stomach, but for anybody, like, what they do to her, I think that was just the ultimate, like, relief in a way. Like, she got her comeuppance, like, and it was like the most satisfying way. Like, the amount of shit she put, like, this pretty much this whole town was traumatized because these kids, her nephew, this teacher, all these people. So, I feel like it was just like, this bitch has to fucking pay. And the way they did it, I think worked. And I think it was like, and in terms of the thing leading up to that, I think it was just like kind of sort of a breadth of levity kind of thing. Not everybody's going to see that. I know, like, oh, it's a Benny Hill chase scene. I get it. But for me, I felt that was what it was. Now, in terms of everything else, I thought I genuinely can't think of like a thing wrong with this. Maybe Paul's story was a little iffy, but like nothing like bad. Like I can't like think of anything like truly horrible. I was looking at some Google reviews where it's like this movie's nothing but flashbacks and plot holes. It's like no, they're not plot holes. It's ambiguous. You're supposed to fill in the things yourself because it shows you. It doesn't tell you. It doesn't spoon feed you information. Like, as I was saying before. You want to mention
that scene you were telling me earlier?
Yeah, it lets you know. It lets you know what the information, and then that's it. And the thing is, this is what great movies do. Half of the movie gives you the information that it needs to give you. The other half is the heavy lifting from the audience. But the thing is, a lot of people don't want to do the heavy lifting. They just want everything fed to them. Like infamously, a certain somebody doing their Superman review, he was going through everything about how horrible the movie was, and how it's filled with plot holes and it doesn't work. It's like, no, if you just paid attention, you would have figured it out. Like that's the whole like basic gist of it all. And I think I think people just, there are a little, I remember speaking of John Carpenter, as you mentioned, with, Zach Cregger's influence, I remember when there was a test screening for The Thing, aka what is now considered one of the greatest horror films ever made, back when it was, hated at the time. This was, I think it was either during a premiere. I think it was during like a premiere or test screening where John Carpenter was in attendance.
And Zach Cregger who said that. Sorry, not
yes.
It was Michael Shanks from Together.
Oh, Michael Shanks. Sorry, my bad.
But it's okay. Keep going.
You have John Carpenter was at this test screening, and somebody asked, he's like, "Well, what happens at the end?" Like spoilers for a fucking like 40-year-old movie, but who is the Thing at the end? He's like, well, it's up to you guys to figure that out. He's like, oh, I hate it when movies do that.
Yes,
that's the. I mean, don't get me wrong. The audience is smarter than some filmmaker than what producers think, but they're not smart enough for what filmmakers want to do with their movies. They're in this weird in between, I think.
It was Kurt Russell and Keith David, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's just like, and this was back when, The Thing was hated, but yeah, Michael Shanks was the person. Obviously, this was no body harm. I'm sure I'm willing to bet that Zach Cregger's influence was probably John Carpenter at some point. Every horror fan's influence is John Carpenter.
Of course,
point. But yes, thank you.
Did you feel bad for the homeless guy? I felt so bad for him, man. I felt like he was just trying to be a sweetheart and get some money, and they did my boy wrong.
He was like a. I mean, I do kind of feel bad because he's, a drug addict. Addiction is very hard, and there's only so much. But there are certain things that, like, I don't feel totally bad for him, but I will not lie, my heart sank when, Eldon Ehrenreich Paul comes in and drags him from the car because that he's possessed now. And it's just like, oh, I did kind of want to see him out okay. And then I will say I did like the scene where Josh Brolin kept punching him over and over again. I did think that was pretty fun.
Oh yeah, he kept like tossing him through, and
because it's funny because Julia Gardner is a smaller, more frail woman dealing with a guy who's a police officer who has some bulk on him. Josh Brolin is this like 6'4" muscle bound dude, and he's up against this drug addled, essentially young guy, and he's just chucking him across the room. So, I thought that was a good, funny scene. I think Zach Cregger, I don't think any of the scenes are unintentionally funny because all the scenes that are meant to be funny are meant to be funny. I think Zach Cregger did that on purpose. So, I think Julia Garner did a wonderful job. Like Carrie Christopher, the little kid who played Alex. That was the thing because I usually talk to myself when I see movies alone, like when I'm in the car and I'm just kind of letting my thoughts go out. He's only 5'11", but in terms of the guy who's probably like way smaller and shorter than him, it's still, it's still small. Anyway, but I have, and I cannot wait for the upcoming remake. And
Do you think
also,
there's
good
going to be a
evening,
sequel?
movie spud. You know, I will say this. You know, I kind of mean. But I think that was kind of the point. It was kind of like this out of like pocket ridiculousness. I'm not a huge soup guy, so that although I did wanna say like this movie is brought to you by Campbell Soup. Um,
A question I just asked was, do you think there's going to be a sequel?
I hope not. I hope it does the Sinners thing where it's just like it's as is. It's not
Okay.
going to be touched. I hope. I'm curious about his brother. The thing is, I've never played the games, so I don't know how it is. I just know that a couple other friends of mine are like, yeah, the first game sucks because the tank controls are annoying. So yeah, there was I'm kind of iffy because he said it's going to be more of like a spiritual thing. He said the games are a huge influence. I'm like, why didn't you just do the games though? Like we got like 8 movies where they didn't even bother like doing the games with his like Mary Sue wife main character. So it's just like just fucking, do that proper. You know, but yeah, it's yeah, this was such a phenomenal movie. If I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it a perfect 10. Like in all honesty, like nothing like bothered me, nothing broke the movie for me. I thought every single performance was high caliber. I thought every like situation, I like how what it did is like because again, going to that person's negative Google reviews, like, oh, it's nothing but flashbacks. It's like it's not really. What it does is like it goes on and on and on, and then it gives you a little bit from this person's perspective, and then they move on. They continue the movie because it like goes back and then it goes forward, goes a little bit back and then forward. But you still have a moving through line of the whole movie. It's not just like, oh, technically, if we're being particular here, technically the whole movie's a flashback because of that narration. Like, oh, this happened years ago, and then it got covered up and blah blah blah.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
I think but yeah, I absolutely really love this movie. I thought it was so well done. I think I just can't I thought it was well paced. Again, the only thing bad about this movie was the baby crying in the fucking at various points during the movie, but that's not the movie's fault. That's the idiot parents who decided to bring a newborn into a horror movie. So,
Also, I want to add that whoever's watching the show, you guys want to go see this film on probably the biggest sound immersive audio system as possible because the jump scares in this are very effective. One of them got
yes.
me, and I was kind of bummed out because I went to an AMC and you know. They're kind of like I should have read the reviews before I went. They're kind of known for their iffy, like that location was known for their iffy audio system, where like it kind of feels like they're only like the front speakers in the theater are working, but the back ones are just like they turn them off to save money or some shit, like so I wish I would have gotten to see it at like, my local Cinemark or something because when I go there, man, like even if you watch like you don't watch the XD format that Cinemark offers, even if you just watch it in the basic format, dude, the freaking audio is just like it's loud, like it's fucking loud and you want to see this movie, in that immersive experience. If you're not in a good audio setting, you're not going to have fun with this movie. That's all I'm just going to throw out there. So,
Yeah. Um, I think it's, just a brilliantly well made movie. Definitely very immersive. I mean, I don't think it's on I don't think it's on the Dolby screen. I mean, I kind of, now I kind of want to see if it is. I might try to see it again. I kind of want to reserve a day where I just see every movie I want to. Like, I want to see Superman again. I want to see F1 again. I want to see Weapons again. Hopefully without a crying baby. I almost want to see Together again. Like,
they're offering Weapons in 40x, but it's funny because I did check out, since we're, like closer to New York City, I checked out like some of the Regal, locations in New York City if they offer 40X for weapons, and it's not there for some reason. I don't know which theater in the United States has it for 40X, but I feel like that would be a nice experience to see it, and like with the seats rumbling and stuff, because I did get to see Twister and Twisters in 40X, and man, let me tell you, that technology, it's insane, man. If you haven't checked out 40X, John, it's awesome, man. So
Yeah, I mean, I gotta see if I have that anywhere near me. So, um, I just think, yeah, like this is one of those things where I can't understand the bad reviews. Like when it comes to like certain movies, I'm like, oh, I get why people hated this movie. Like you're like watching like, I don't know, just Halloween Ends. I'm like, I enjoyed it, but I get why people hate it. Yeah, I get why everyone thinks this is dog shit. Like I'm not like, oh, why is I get why I enjoyed it. I don't think it was great, but I understood what Dave Gordon Green was going for with that movie. But it could be worse. Could be Halloween 6. But this movie, I was like, I'm kind of looking at kind of the more negative reviews, and I'm like, I don't really get it. I don't really get why people would have like a huge problem with, maybe outside of the ending of what you were saying. Like, I get why maybe that didn't work for some people, but I'm honestly like, people are like, oh, it's clunky, it's trying too hard, it's this. And I'm like, I just didn't get that. I don't know how people saw that, but for me, yeah,
what would you give it out of 10? Like, what would be your rating out of 10? Just
no, I said I would give it like a 10 out of 10. Like straight up, I would give it like a perfect score because it was that good. Bones sticking out, that's a problem. It's the things that bother me are teeth getting pulled, like pulled. Falling out, but like pulled is nope. Nails falling out or getting ripped out, anything to do with eyes, and like stuff like that. Like when it comes to like very sensitive body parts is when I get really icked. But I will say what I liked about this, because you mentioned this, and I was like, what I really loved was, as you said, the jump scares, because the jump scares here, much like how Scott Derrickson does jump scares, the jump scares here felt earned because there was a proper buildup and a proper payoff.
Yes.
It wasn't just like, like Blumhouse boo scares where it's just like somebody taps their shoulder. It's like,
I love that.
And it's like, that's not what is it. Like I could feel it coming, but it still like gets you because the tensing up, the problem with how people do jump scares and boo scares, as Good Bad Flicks likes to call them, is when it's just like it's a fake out, where it's just like it comes out of nowhere. It's there to like keep the audience, like the attention of the audience, I guess, and it's just there because it's there. Like it serves no purpose. But when it's effective jump scares, it's like it can be genuinely terrifying.
Yeah.
Like a great instance of a good effective jump scare was like when Annie gets into the car in the original Halloween, where it's like, it's coming. She's like, oh, she tries to open the car. She forgets the keys. She has to go back to get the keys. The car is foggy and it's just this whole scene. And then Michael comes out and fucking, it's this whole scene of this terrifying scene of her getting strangled. It's just like, that's a great effective jump scare.
Yeah.
So
I like that part when Julia Gardner is she's sleeping in the car. She's on a stakeout, and then that lady just comes out of the house with scissors, and then first she tries to get in like her front seat or whatever, her front open the front door, and then she gets through the trunk is open. She opens the trunk because it's unlocked, and then everyone in my theater was just like, oh shit!
Everyone in my theater did the same thing. They're like,
exactly, yeah. And then we all thought she was gonna stick the scissors in her ear, and instead she takes like a little piece of hair.
That was another good effective oh, she's gonna kill her. She's gonna kill her. She takes a lock of her hair, and then that intrigues you further. It's like, where is this? It just doesn't. When you think it's gonna do something, you just it's so effective.
Exactly.
So effective.
I am
But
curious though, because all right,
yeah,
I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. You said 10 out of 10, but I believe Daniel said 6.5 out of 10. Now I think we deserve to know why he rated it so so far
wait,
apart
Dan
from us.
hasn't seen it yet, though. He hasn't seen it yet.
Wait, but I thought he said 6.5. I don't know.
No,
Maybe my mind's
I know
tripping.
somebody in the comments. I know the geeky guy gave it a 6 out of 10. So
Okay.
he was
Okay.
said he was
Maybe I
disappointed by
misread
it.
that. Okay.
Um. So yeah, everyone's going into like sound effects, breaking bones. Like you take a bit of celery. Oof. Yeah, breaking bones can be. That's another one where it's like, ooh, ah, not great. But yeah, I thought this was an incredibly effective movie. If
Likewise.
you're still here after all this time, if you didn't care about spoilers and haven't seen it, I'd still say go see it. I thought, and with that, one more thing before we truly move on, and then I'll text Stan to come back in. But Amy Madigan gave one of the creepiest fucking villain performances I have ever seen in a movie in a long time.
Yes.
I'm like, the bitch from Uncle Buck fucking creeped me out. Like,
It took
damn.
me a minute to process that was actually her. I was like,
I
wait.
couldn't
And then
figure it
all
out.
right, this I'm not cutting you off. I'm gonna let you talk, man, but I have to say this. She
No,
had the
go ahead.
same fucking makeup on as Uncle Buck. You know how she has like that thick red, the makeup dimples and the white
Yeah,
powder, bro. It was the same. I swear, I was like, she looks the same, just a bit older. Like
yeah.
I can't believe it. You
I
know.
couldn't figure it out because I'm like, I looked at her, I'm like, it's not Holly Hunter. I don't know why I thought Holly Hunter, but I'm like, it's somebody because they kind of have a similar voice. But I'm like, it's somebody that I know because it's the eyes. I recognize the eyes, but like she had makeup. Obviously, she's older. She had the prosthetic teeth. She had no hair. So I'm like, she's somebody. And then I'm like, the fucking wife from fucking Field of Dreams. What the hell?
I think she plays
Um,
Shanice or Denise something in Uncle
Shanice
Buck.
in Uncle
Shanice,
Buck.
yeah, yeah.
That was it. And what it's so funny, I was telling my mom about it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, she does. She apparently did a Criminal Minds episode where she played a fucking loony bird." So I was like, "Okay, so she has done this kind of thing before." So I'm like, "I haven't seen it, so I didn't think of it." But I was like, "Damn, the
You could
chick
you
from
could
Uncle Buck."
you could kind of see that, given that New Line Cinema, they made it, they were kind of behind the curtain as well with Zach Cregger. You can kind of see the vibes in the movie with, when the homeless man, he goes back into his tent in like the jungle in the
Mhm.
forest, and she's just like there, just waving, like kind of like how Pennywise is like, hello, like from
Yeah, I'm
afar, like
sure that
staring
the
the
influence was
kids.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But overall, great stuff. Shaq gave it 8.5. I gave it a 10. I thought both of us thought it was great. You had more problems with it than I did, but it's still a high recommendation from both of us. Now let me, text Dan real quick. Gotta
John, I am
um
going to ask you one
yeah.
last question though, and I need
Mm-hmm.
to get this off my mind. I noticed that a lot of the movie reviews for other films like Freakier Friday dropped quite early, right, on YouTube. And I noticed that Weapons, it just took time for a lot of the movie critics to really get it out there. I mean, do you think there might have been something like going on there? Like why weren't the reviews for that out like earlier than, well, just as early as other films, even, because I think it deserved that, given the fact that IGN last week was the only channel that put out a review for this. And I don't really like watching their reviews too much because sometimes they give away a
Yeah,
little bit of the
IGN kind of
movie.
sucks.
Okay, I was trying to I was trying to keep it a little like neutral, but yes, okay, I agree. They give away a little bit of the film. So
Yeah.
what
Maybe it's
what is the
just
reason for that, do you
they
think?
maybe it's following the movie. Maybe they want to intrigue people like, "Oh, what's it going to be? What's it going to be?" Maybe there was some NDA stuff that, maybe the review embargo was just much later. Maybe it's just like the intrigueness of it all, or maybe that's just the date they picked. I don't know, but
I'm
maybe
kind of
Dan
sad
has
though
more
there was no
insight.
popcorn bucket for it though,
No, there's
because
not,
the
which kind
monkey
of
had
works.
one. Osgood
Which
Perkins, the monkey, had one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I have it on I have one of our other co-hosts got it for me because my
oh,
theater stopped
nice.
selling it, but she got it. I have it on my top shelf over there. I have many
Nice.
popcorn buckets, but yeah, good stuff.
I'll,
And
I'll show you my latest find for the people that are watching too. So this is the Freakier Friday swap corn bucket. That's actually a drink cup. It has fake popcorn, and then this that has the fake ice is the popcorn bucket. So yeah, and I
all
think
right.
John, do you like this? Tell me, what do you think?
Yes, I have it. I have it. Yes,
Isn't that some cool shit or what?
Yeah, I have both the beaver and the drink cup.
All right, let's give it back to Daniel. We had a great chat, man, while you were away.
Awesome.
You're
all right.
muted.
Well, no, I'm good. I'm good. Right. I'm
Okay.
back. Right. There we go. All right. Well, guys, let us know in the comments down below what you thought about the whole conversation around weapons. Have you seen the movie? Do you like it? Are you more excited about it now if you haven't seen it? Well, obviously, I guess if you were here for the spoiler chat, then good luck with that. If you guys are watching live, of course, hit the like button. If you're not watching live, if you're watching us after the show has finished, then you can still definitely go ahead and hit the like button. We appreciate it. It's one little click for you guys. We really, really appreciate that. Now we're gonna move past weapons because I think we have talked about it quite a bit, and we have some other movie news because MovieTalk Madness continues. So the next piece of news we got to get into here is Tom Cruise. Shaq, I don't know if you heard about this, but Tom Cruise has been working on one of his first movies. We kept talking about, hey, Tom Cruise has got a deal with Warner Brothers. He's got an office on the Warner Brothers lot. When is he going to start making movies with the studio? So he has been working on a movie with Doug Liman in the director's chair. And also Ana de Armas, I mentioned earlier, she was going to come up quite a few times in the show today. So Ana de Armas and Tom Cruise are set to lead this movie called Deeper. And it's being directed, or at least was being directed, by Doug Liman. It's a new thriller, but it looks like it's in a bit of trouble. And primarily the reason why it's in a bit of trouble, let me see if I can zoom in here. So they talk about it here. It's an undersea thriller. This is one of those movies where I'm sure Tom Cruise will do some crazy stunts like he does in every movie. But essentially, it looks like the budget of the movie was way higher than anything that Warner Brothers is comfortable with. Because when you look at it here, the number they quoted was $320 million was what was being asked for. And Warner Brothers was hesitant to give it any more than 275. So let me just read this out actually here. Reports surfaced back in July. Warner Brothers was hesitant about committing to the film's $275 million budget, which I don't know what they're doing with this movie that is going to cost them $275 million. Like, are they going to have aliens invading under the ocean? Like, whatever the case might be. But the studio was looking to make the movie for no more than $230 million. So there's a gap of around 45 million there. And I quite frankly think even 230 million might be a little bit high. But it looks like, in addition to the film's budget problems, it's now also potentially facing the departure of the director, Doug Liman, according to a new report in Puck. So with the movie that, Doug Liman and Tom Cruise have been working on for quite some time, is one of several projects Tom Cruise has in the works. I want to get your take on these guys. I mean, it looks like Doug Liman has been putting out feelers now to others in the industry through his agent, like, hey, maybe he wants to take on a different project, because as of right now, Tom Cruise, he's playing hardball, but Warner Brothers, rightfully so, Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca, they're not willing to give this movie a budget of $275 million. And quite frankly, I'm okay with that, because $275 million, unless it's a big franchise, which this movie is not, I don't think the star power of Tom Cruise and Ana de Armas is enough to make a movie that's going to cost them that much money to make profitable, right? Because the last movie that Ana de Armas was in was Ballerina. That's part of a John Wick franchise. That didn't even make $150 million. And the Mission Impossible movie that came out this year with Tom Cruise made less than $600 million. So, I mean, do you think it's justified at this point? I'll come to you, Shaq, first. What do you think about this news? Because $275 million seems like a lot of money for a movie that's not part of a pre-existing franchise. And regardless of the fact that you have Ana de Armas and Tom Cruise attached and Doug Liman in the director's chair, do you think they're going to figure this out, or is this movie just going to eventually just die out and we're not going to get it at all?
That's hard to say, because given that the track record of Tom Cruise and also Ana de Armas, there's just been a lot of controversy. Recently, I think their relationship being one, it's had a lot of backlash. And then also the fact that Tom Cruise was in The Mummy, the when they tried to create the Dark Universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that movie also underperformed. And then there was like this whole video going around of how like like when Tom Cruise was like he voiced over that scene when he the plane's going down like I remember seeing that, man, and I was like, oh God, okay, this is bad. But then he's had some surprising hits like Edge of Tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
which he co-starred with Emily Blunt, in the movie with, and surprisingly, I did enjoy that film. So it's really hard to say where they would be at with, if they're going to greenlight this project. And I know Tom Cruise, he likes to work on massive budgets, do massive stunts. That's kind of what he's known for at this
Yeah,
point in Hollywood. Doing the impossible, going, the
literally.
extra mile, and doing what no other actor dares to do. He's also been behind the startup of many actors' careers, like Glenn Powell, for example. He himself has said in interviews that Tom Cruise has been, a big supporter of, me being in movies. Like he was a big inspiration for him to be in Twisters, for example. And, kind of like give that movie that extra cowboy push, like I loved his character, Glenn Powell's character in Twisters. So Tom Cruise, he's always, the thing I like about him is he's always there pushing the limits, pushing actors, being supportive of everyone. I loved when he was promoting Oppenheimer and Barbie, doing the whole, Barbenheimer thing that was happening, and his own film, suffered. I mean, because of, I'm just going to be honest and say it suffered because of, obviously some plot issues and pacing issues, but also because of Oppenheimer and Barbie came out, right? And they were like the big deal at that time. And then
It kind of got like sandwiched in
Right.
between two much better movies.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
it's very tough to say. And I mean, honestly, I do hope that, he kind of tries to bring that budget a little bit down, because honestly, I mean, look at what directors are doing with minimal budgets. I mean, have you guys seen Bring Her Back, directed by Danny Filippo?
I heard of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple friends of mine saw it, said it was really good. I simply had no
Um,
interest.
that movie was made on a string budget. Same thing with like Talk to Me.
Yep.
Same directors. So, like you can make an effective horror film without going into the hundreds of millions of dollars of budgets. And I feel like film studios right now are being very critical in terms of allotting funding for budgets that high, because
Which,
I
yeah,
I'm just going to finish real quick.
yeah.
This year, have you guys noticed that a lot of the major film studios pulled out of Comic-Con? Like they
Mm-hmm.
actually did not bother to reserve any events at Hall H. So, whereas things like that are happening in real life right now, I don't think that a studio would be, willing to give $300 million to Mr. Tom Cruise to make or Doug Liman, whatever, to make a horror film. So that's my take on it. But
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's completely fair because look, we talked about it was it yesterday or 2 days ago? John, I think you were on the show actually. This was earlier in the week. Heat 2, Michael Mann wanted like 300 million to make Heat 2. And they're like, we can't give you anywhere close to that kind of money. We don't care how many A-listers you have in it, even with potentially Leonardo DiCaprio attached. I think this is just fiscally responsible work from studio heads at Warner Brothers who are having a great year so far, primarily because they're not throwing money away. Like Weapons, we were just talking about, was made for less than $50 million. And if that movie makes 200 million, which it very well could, it's very profitable, right? We have talked about in the past, like Joker, the first one was made for like less than $80 million, and it made $1 billion. I mean, that's the extreme end of like how successful a movie that of its scale could be. But I just don't like. I think Tom Cruise is going into this thinking like his time at Paramount, where they just kept giving him money because he was like the biggest name on their roster. Warner Brothers, A, cannot afford to do that, and B, they're not in the business of like throwing money away like that. Not anymore, at least. They're not going to spend like $450 making a Justice League movie like they did back in the AT&T era. So I think this right now is as much as I love a good Tom Cruise movie, and Ana de Armas obviously is great, and as a action actress, like she's done a lot of action work with James Bond, with Ballerina. She's got a few other things. I mean, there was that movie she had on Apple TV Plus, but yeah, as hot as these actors are, unfortunately,
And Ana de Armas
that's
is
too big
very
of a
hot.
budget.
So,
well, that's not what what I was going for. But yeah,
I like this guy.
275 million. I was just trying to think. 200. So Superman was made for 225 million. Like that's like almost 50 million, but pretty much 50 million more than what Superman was made for. And Yeah, Superman is just barely profitable, right? Like well, I shouldn't say just barely because now it's getting closer and closer to 600, so it is profitable enough. But it's Superman. Like people know Superman. Like when you say deeper, like what are you talking about, right? Like okay, Tom Cruise and Ana de Armas, so we've all talked about how people don't go to the movies for the star power as much as they used to. So
I
anyway,
want to add one quick thing.
Yeah.
That, you know, another effective, I think, way could be possibly is doing maybe like a legacy sequel type deal, or like nostalgia, right? I mean, look what happened recently with I Know What You Did Last Summer, Freddie Prinze Jr., and then, you know, the cameo in the film with Michelle Gallagher. You know, it was good. You know, like it was effective. I actually enjoyed that film. You know, I kind of liked how they kind of brought back, you know, some of the OG cast, given that does not always work all the time. Jurassic World Dominion, you know, so you know it could go south sometimes. But I feel like, you know, if you're gonna go a route and you want that type of massive budget, maybe that could be a way to kind of approach it. You know, if he's actually asking for that type of that budget, you know, from the studio. I mean, it would be a hard story to kind of scratch up, but I don't know, maybe, you know, throw some old actors in there, you know, do that thing, you know, and then add some Tom Cruise, you know, whatever magic in there, fall off a plane, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. I was thinking more along the lines of he's just starting out at Warner Brothers. This is one of his first movies with Warner Brothers since he signed that deal a couple of years ago, because he still has been finishing up all the franchise work at Paramount between Mission Impossible, and then he's still working on a Top Gun Maverick sequel. So go in and make a movie like something that's a little bit on the smaller side, you know, maybe a Les Grossman movie or something else that you make for less than 100 million. Prove to Warner Brothers, where you have a developing relationship, that you can have a movie like that, make a, you know, profit, and then go in and maybe you can now, you know, spend have them give you a bigger budget, right? Like you got to start somewhere. Even a man of like his stature, like you can't just go in and asking for. I mean, again, and Doug Liman too. Like let's be honest, like not every movie that he's produced has been the best thing ever. It's not like he's got a spotless record.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Do something like Zach Cregger did with Weapons and
Exactly.
Barbarian. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Tom Cruise is going to go for a movie that is that cheap, but I'm like, there's a big gap between a movie that's $40 million and a movie that's $275 million. Right?
I mean,
like,
wait, hold on. Well, Tom Cruise, he might do a movie that cheap. I mean, let's not forget Dwayne Johnson, Red One, the Smashing Machine.
That's true.
Oh,
that's true. But it depends.
I mean,
again,
he was like, "Oh
depends on the
shit,
goal."
I'm not the box office draw anymore. I can't just like come into DC making demands and just get my way. Maybe I actually have to try this time." And Benny Safdie's like,
Benny
"I got you."
can do some magic, okay?
Yeah. No, they don't need magic. They need a fucking miracle. Whoever blessed the 1980 U.S. hockey team needs to come back in for Dwayne Johnson, because the motherfucker needs it at this point. Not like I want him to win, because he's an asshole and he kind of deserves all the comeuppance that he's been getting. But I just hope the Smashing Machine is good. And I don't fucking care about UFC. So I almost said UHF. Jesus Christ, got my things mixed up.
That's a very different thing. Anyway, okay, so guys, we're gonna obviously, you know, I'm sure touch upon this when we have more news. As of right now, it looks like Doug Liman might be moving on from the project, so they might need a new director, and they certainly need to figure out a budget. Which right now it looks like this movie might not happen at all. So yeah, 275 million. Yeah, it's maybe it's going to Movie Spud. He can probably use that. If we can all use that kind of money. But hey, you know what?
We can use that. All of us. Anyway.
Yeah, Monique is not a big fan of Dwayne Johnson. Yeah, The Rock is trying to get an Oscar, Patrick. Okay. All right. By the way, to anybody who's joining the show again, because I know some of you guys stepped out because we were talking about weapons in a very spoilery sense. So not to worry. We are done talking about weapons for the time being. Let's talk about Highlander, and also let's talk about Roadhouse 2, because we have news now. I mean, this is something I mentioned yesterday on yesterday's show, but I didn't have John and Shaq with me to talk about this. So we know now that speaking of WWE or ex-WWE wrestlers like Dwayne Johnson, John Cena being, you know, now in the acting business, of course, I think the best wrestler turned actor probably is Dave Bautista. And right now he's getting in business with Amazon MGM Studios, but not only, you know, the Highlander franchise, the revival of that franchise, he's going to be playing the villain opposite Henry Cavill, but also he's now signed up to play the villain opposite Jake Gyllenhaal in Roadhouse 2. John, I'll start with you on this one. Your thoughts on this? Because now he's going from being in Dune, and he was in one of the James Bond movies with Daniel Craig. Obviously, he's done a lot of other stuff. Not everything he has done is a hit. He's a big, fan of James Gunn with the Guardians movies. He might end up in the DCU eventually, but it seems like the roles keep on coming in for Dave Bautista. Like he comes from humble beginnings, and now he's going to be in not one but two big Amazon MGM franchises between Highlander and then Roadhouse 2, playing a villain in both. I mean, is he kind of going into a bit of a niche now? Like he's kind of figured out like what he's good at, and then also in general, what's your reaction to this? Like, are you excited now, even more so than before? Because the movie's already had Jake Gyllenhaal and Henry Cavill, but now you add Dave Bautista. What does that say to you about the franchise and what they're doing?
I mean, Dave Bautista, the legendary Dave Bautista that was in Naked Gun, which that cameo had me howling. Like that was brilliant. But I think I hope the best for him because he, as you said, he's really the best out of all of them. Honestly, I think he should have been Sean Connery's role. That would have made sense because he's actually like ethnic, like that character is supposed to be, rather than like pale Englishman fucking Russell Crowe over here, even though he's supposed to be playing an Egyptian Spaniard. So it's like I don't know how that's gonna work. But honestly, I'll also, I'm curious how they're gonna do the villain, because the villain in the original Highlander was Clancy Brown, who was having a fucking ball. I mean, the movie's kind of shit, but he was just having the time of his life. Clancy Brown, the man is legendary for a reason, and he was having a ton of fun on that movie. So I'm curious if like Dave Bautista is going to kind of go crazy for it like Clancy Brown did, or he's going to be more subdued and do like a more straight-laced performance. So I'm really curious how that's going to happen. I don't really care about Roadhouse 2. I didn't see the first one. I heard it was okay. But I am, definitely curious about Highlander now, even more so. So yeah, I wish him the best, and I hope he's just in better projects than Stuber. So
I mean, Shaq, what do you think? Because this is again, Batista just keeps getting these. He's not in the. I don't know if he's going to come back for any of the Avengers movies coming up as Drax. A lot of people know him from that, unless you were a fan of him from his wrestling days. But I mean, Patrick Swayze is no longer around, but Jake Gyllenhaal did a pretty good job with the first Roadhouse movie. Now you bring in Batista, and also, of course, Highlander is one of those movies that it's a cult classic. You already had a Henry Cavill in there, who's obviously one of the nerd gods in Hollywood today. So now you add Dave Bautista in there, who can really play an imposing villain. What are your thoughts again? And the fact that they're doing this this announcement where he's kind of joining in with both movies at the same time. It's almost like Amazon MGM wanted to get into the Dave Bautista business, and it looks like they've got him. Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I feel like Dave Bautista, I've always been a fan of his from his WWE wrestling days. I think he's a phenomenal and very versatile actor. He can play any range of emotion. I mean, from being in Spectre, playing that henchman against Daniel Craig, and then also being in an M. Night Shyamalan movie, Knock at the Cabin, where he's kind of playing like an anti-hero and anti-villain.
I loved his take in that movie.
And then going from there to being in a cameo in The Naked Gun. I thought this guy was going to be holding like this fucking beaver for like 10 seconds, but like, no, he was not doing that. He was actually like legit there with Liam Neeson. And I was like, like John said, I was surprised to see him. And then, him playing Drax in, the Marvel universe, it's just been refreshing to see, that he can play any, character at this point. Roadhouse, for me, man, Patrick Swayze, R.I.P. He's always going to be the, the classic character from that movie, just as he was in Ghost with Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg. Yes. And I enjoyed the first Roadhouse, very much so. I don't remember quite a lot because I haven't seen it in a while. I also have not seen the remake with Jake Gyllenhaal, but I'm sure he'll do good as a villain, going up against him. I do know that, he does extensive workouts. He's a very big built gentleman. And, I'm sure if he hits the gym with Jake Gyllenhaal, he'll give him a couple of pointers to, kind of go head to toe with him. But yeah, I feel like, he's getting well-deserved roles as he should. Hey, at the end of the day, a man's got to get paid. Isn't that why we're all in this business in the first place? Right.
No,
Um,
absolutely.
Other than passion comes first, yes, but also secondary to get paid. And props to him for landing all these great roles and also being in the Naked Gun again, for that cameo. So yeah, that's my take on it. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. I do love that he made it's kind of crazy to think that he's gone from being quite, I mean, he wasn't even like he's definitely not the highest profile of the three actors we keep mentioning. So for him to go from that, and obviously what he has done, his comedic timing is fantastic. We know that from, he was improvising so much on those Guardians movies, and James Gunn loved every moment of that, because like
I'll
the
ask
why
you another
Gamora,
question. Why Gamora?
it's so good, so good. But yeah, I'm just excited to see more Dave Bautista, and whether he can pull off an accent or not. Emo Nerd Girl, I'm not quite sure. I guess we'll find out if he can or not, and when the movie comes out. I've never seen him pull off an accent, so I
He
wouldn't
was
rely on
he
that.
he was very versatile in Dune as well, because in my opinion, in the first Dune film, he pulled off what Austin Butler pulled off on screen in the
Mm,
second one. Like when he came on screen in Dune Part One, we were just like, "Whoa, man, this is not Batista. This is a bad motherfucker. He's
Yeah.
scary looking, And
Also,
sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
No. Sorry to cut. No, I'll say after you're done. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. But yeah,
Yeah.
like, just as when Austin Butler came in, Dune Part Two, I was just like, wow, like he slit that, woman's throat who handed him the knife, and then he just licks the blood. And I was like, whoa, this is the same effectiveness that Dennis Villeneuve. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. On the
Denis
off chance that he's
Villeneuve.
watching this,
It's
what
French. It's fine.
okay. What he pulled off with Batista in the first film, when he was just snapping necks and shit and just murdering everyone when he attacked that base. So I think, yeah, that's where versatility is at its best.
Mhm. Most definitely. I think he understands like what certain people want, and how he does that is exceptional. And also, I'd like to clear the air here. Dave Bautista is not playing Sean Connery's character, so he wouldn't be doing an accent. He's playing Clancy Brown's character in the original. I'm just saying, I think he would have been better as Sean Connery's character, and I think he would have done that accent well. I'm just saying what I personally think. He's not playing that character, though. Russell Crowe is playing that character, and Dave Bautista is playing Clancy Brown. So I know some people were confused in the chat, so that was my bad. Just wanted to let people know that that's what I was. I mean, I think we all do, like, because we need that, all of us. Great Dave Bautista performances, but he's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, let us know in the comments down below what you think about the news. Dave Bautista joining in with Amazon MGM Studios, and not just one, but two franchises, the upcoming Highlander movie, as well as Roadhouse 2 with Henry Cavill and, of course, Jake Gyllenhaal, respectively. He's going to be the villain in both. So are you looking forward to seeing more Bautista? Of course, he is. He's a part of a lot of different franchises nowadays. Let us know in the comments down below what you think about it. In the meantime, we're gonna move on, and we gotta talk about some Batman news, guys, because this is something we discussed yesterday. And then things have developed a little bit since. So if you guys were watching the show yesterday, I was sort of talking about how we're excited to see eventually the DCU Batman. We actually have a fan casting for the DCU Batman that you guys voted on coming up later after the show. So stick around for that. But in the meantime, there's been a rumor that was put out into the into the nerd sphere, as it were, that John, I'm sure you heard about and you are not a fan of, because it was coming from Jeff Snyder, who said that, hey, the Batman 2 might feature a Robin, apparently, and it's supposedly a big swing from Matt Reeves and Mattson Tomlin, the co-writers, and of course Matt Reeves, the director, as well. But it is still just as dark as the original. Now, as we know, Jeff Snyder has put out these kind of takes in the past, and they've been shot down later on by James Gunn. Well, guess what happened here?
Guess what happened?
The same thing that has happened before, because James Gunn went ahead and was like, look, guys, this is complete nonsense.
Stop
These
believing
rumors.
this horse shit.
He debunked it. And the exact thing that James, exactly.
He says
he
nonsense.
didn't say that.
I was embellishing.
Yes. But what he said was specifically, guys, please stop believing this nonsense. I think 6 of us have read the script. 6 of us being, let's just do the count. You got Mattson, Tomlin, Matt Reeves, the two writers and the director. You got Peter Safran, James Gunn, the heads of DC Studios. That's 4 people right there. And then if you add another 2, maybe Robert Pattinson has read the script because of course he's the star of the movie, and maybe one of the other producers at DC Studios. Like 6 people, you can count them on 2 hands. That's not many people. So no one knows anything about the Batman 2 is what James Gunn said. Now here's the thing. What James Gunn said, it definitely feels like he just debunked this completely. However, Jeff Snyder wasn't going to take this lying down this time around, because he then came back at not necessarily James Gunn directly, but he did quote one of the posts with James Gunn's answer, and he said, "Look, it sounds like another denial from Jimbo, as in James Gunn. Why not just say Robin isn't in the script? Seems simple, right? I know why he isn't saying that." And ... So I guess this is where I'm going to ask you. I'm going to start with you, John, because we have been talking about this subject matter for a while. We've speculated maybe we'll get a Robin in the Batman, the Bex franchise, the Batman epic crime saga, in addition to the Damian Wayne we're getting in the DCU. So here comes Jeff Snyder. He says, this is what I've heard. Maybe there'll be a Robin. It will still be a really dark movie. And then all of a sudden, James Gunn comes out, completely debunks it, saying, 6 of us have read the script. It's complete nonsense. No one knows anything about the movie. And then Jeff Snyder says, look, he didn't say he's not in the movie. He didn't say Robin isn't in the movie. And to be fair, there's been many instances where James Gunn has posed a question about like what's coming up next in the DCU, or like he's been asked, is Batman and is Robert Pattinson's Batman going to be the DCU Batman? And James Gunn always seemingly doesn't give you like a straight up no. He kind of like dances around the subject and gives you
unless it's about Batman casting, because where he just fucking straight up said no,
like, nothing. But I'm saying like there's been other instances where James Gunn hasn't exactly denied it all the way. Like it's a bit of a non-denial. Like, so we're used to seeing that. So do you think Jeff Snyder is on the money here? Because James Gunn didn't say no, Robin's not in the script.
But I also think Jeff Snyder is a little fucking scumbag who's still jelly that he wasn't invited to one of the premieres for DC, so now he has a hate boner for DC now. So I think that this little fucking little douchebag is like going off on this whole thing of like, oh, James Gunn didn't say no. Yeah, maybe because he doesn't want to reveal shit about the thing that's in the early stages of pre-production. Maybe he doesn't want to reveal parts of the fucking movie. So he's just saying, hey, stop believing this, whatever this fuckwad is trying to perpetuate about this goddamn movie that's barely along. How about that? How about Jeff? Shut the fuck up. Have you ever thought about that, Jeff? Like, Jesus, I'm so fucking like, this guy is giving Grace Randolph a run for her money. It's so ridiculous. I'm beginning to hate Jeff Snyder more than Grace Randolph, because Grace Randolph, a broken clock is right twice a day with her. This guy is just not even a broken clock. The clock is smashed. Like you can't even tell time on Jeff's clock because he's fucking never right about shit. So I think he needs to just shut the fuck up. And I think James Gunn needs to have like a straight up boxing match with this dude, like Uwe Boll does with his critics, and just like beat the shit out of him. Because I feel like that's like the next step where this is going. Because if James Gunn ain't gonna do it, I'm gonna fucking do it. This dude needs this guy. I'm gonna take a wild guess that this guy has never been punched for his bullshit, and desperately fucking, this guy is the one guy that needed to get punched like 15 years ago, but just never did. So now he just needs to get decked, because he needs to stop running his fucking bullshit ass mouth and just needs to get a fucking bitch slap across the face, because that's what he is. Jeff Snyder is a fucking bitch who needs to be fucking hit at this fucking point, because I'm so done with him. I'm so done. I'm done with him. I want him to just crawl to whatever hole he fucking came out of, because I'm sick of it. I'm sick. I'm genuinely like so fucking sick of this dude with his fucking petty ass bullshit. I'm done. I'm done. Rant over. I can't fucking deal with this guy anymore.
Tony appreciates the honesty. There you go. Yeah. Patrick saying Jeff Snyder seems a little bitter. Look, here's the
Keep
thing.
Snyder's away from DC. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say.
Look, ultimately, I will say though, Jeff Snyder has a bit of a point in the sense that James Gunn did not specifically say no, Robin's not.
Maybe
in
there's a
script.
reason for that.
Yeah, maybe that's completely true. Beat him with the Snyder hot dogs. Shaq, do you have anything to add to this? Again, the story seems to be that James Gunn is just straight up saying no. Don't believe this report. Nobody has read the script. Basically, what he's not saying there's no Robin in the movie. It seems like James Gunn is more so implying that, hey, how would Jeff Snyder know any of this? Because only 6 people have read the script. So, and one of them is probably, James Gunn. So unless one of those other 5 people are talking to Jeff Snyder or passing word along, which I don't imagine they would. I mean, do you think Jeff Snyder's just guessing here? Like, where do you stand on this rumor? Would you even like to see a Robin in the Batman Part 2?
Honestly, would I like to see a Robin in the Batman Part 2 directed by Matt Reeves? I would say yes, because I liked when Christopher Nolan did The Dark Knight Rises, at the end, he hinted, or I guess he practically showed that Joseph Gordon-Levitt was gonna, take the torch, and that it ended on that, and I enjoyed that, in all honesty. So yeah, I would be delighted to see if Matt Reeves picks like a Robin for this movie. But on the other hand, I think it's not really nice to, I guess, spread false rumors unless you have accurate information. And, with James Gunn, he would know what's best because he is, he's helming DC Studios. So, unless the information is coming directly from him, I don't think that, people should validate or believe that, if Jeff, Snyder said that, Robin's going to be in Batman 2, people should believe that. So, I think there's a line that you kind of cross, and then there's a line where you draw, between miscommunication of facts. So it's best if it comes from if it came from Matt Reeves, let's say, right? People would be like, oh shit, like, yeah, that's 100%. Like, he posted it via whatever his social media. So it would be accurate. But, spreading false rumors, I don't think that's a good idea. And I don't,
No,
again, I don't know the whole backstory behind this event a lot,
Right.
just a little bit from what I've seen on social media and stuff. But yeah, that's my take on it. It should just come from like the makers and, like the film distributors or exhibitors, whatever, like whoever is in charge of helming the project, it should come from them directly. It shouldn't, come from other people, like third party sources. But yeah, it would be fun to see a Robin and,
yeah,
Batman
of course it
Part
would
2.
be. Of course it would.
Yeah, I love seeing what the actor from Twilight. I had brain fart.
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson, yes.
Pattinson, yeah.
I did not expect to like that Batman that much, and I did. It was phenomenal. I
Yeah.
loved they did like a spin-off thing with Penguin, Colin Farrell, and
Colin Farrell,
it was just great. But yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's still a year and a half away. What is it, like October 2027?
2027.
Oh wow,
2027.
That's a ways out.
So, and look, just to kind of catch you guys up, if you guys don't know what came up earlier this week, on yesterday's show we were talking about this. They have officially announced this is a part of the shareholders call that Warner Brothers did this week from the Q3 results, and in there was a note saying that they're now in pre-production on the Batman Part 2, and they're preparing to go into production and start filming in spring 2026 for an October 2027 release date. So we know they're starting to work on the movie. Obviously, the script is done. We saw Mattson Tomlin and Matt Reeves post the script. I think it was a few weeks ago now. So, but as far as Robin, look, I'm sure we're gonna get a leak at one point of like they're casting for a character that might feel like a Robin. Until then, I wouldn't really, put too much stock in this because again, it's a bit too early, and like James Gunn said, not many people have read the script. So like, literally half a dozen people in the world. So how is Jeff Snyder getting his information? That's kind of the ultimate question here, which I think James Gunn is right to point that out. So. But Anthony's got a question here, John. But a Robin in this universe makes zero sense because isn't this whole universe based on Batman Year One, where Bruce is learning to be Batman? Good question, actually, John. I mean, do you care to address that?
I mean, I think there is like a plausibility of maybe a Robin can happen, like maybe a Robin can, be there, and especially, and the thing is, I don't really know because Matt Reeves said that he wanted this to, like, be like in great succession, but with how much time he took, I don't think that plan might be the case anymore. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see, but I just can't buy that, like, at the age of 40, he's still young 27, 28-year-old Batman figuring this shit out. So it's just like, I think we need to, like, really properly, figure that. But, like, I mean, it's just totally impossible. Like, a young Robin could join a young Batman, maybe, but I kind of agree with that. Like, it's just too soon. However, people are saying in the comments, Dark Victory is the sequel to Long Halloween, and Long Halloween was a heavy inspiration on the film. And with that, Dark Victory does include Robin. But the thing is, difference Long Halloween, if I remember correctly, Long Halloween wasn't like early Batman, though. We had a pretty established Batman in that comic. So I don't think that that's the case. So with that, because there's a whole bunch of, Year One, Long Halloween, Batman Ego, a couple other ones that I'm missing. But I think we're just at the case of, I don't think a Robin would work, but Matt Reeves is pretty talented. Matt Tomlin is pretty talented. So they could, but it's unlikely for me. But they could surprise us all.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think it might, even if they had plans on bringing in a Robin, it might still feel a bit too early to do it in the second movie. So, yeah. And then, do you think, Anthony's asking, do you think the issue is that there's two, wait, what are you asking? With Jeff Snyder, the bigger channel is giving so much credence. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, look, it depends on who's talking about the story. And also, look, Jeff Snyder does have good connections in the industry. It's just he doesn't get everything right. Most scoopers don't, because they're working oftentimes with like second, third hand information. So yeah, I mentioned this on yesterday's show, the idea that you might be hearing something from somebody who works in the studio a lot but isn't directly like part of the team that's working on the project you're talking about or you're reporting on. So the information changes. Sometimes it might be outdated. They might have thought about including a Robin and then they went against it. This might be completely baseless. It might just be like, whoever Jeff Snyder knows on the Warner Brothers or DC Studios lot, they just gave him a bit of a hint, and so he went and ran with it. This is the thing about like not going with verified news, because usually when you see something in Variety, with Deadline, with the Hollywood Reporter, the Wrap, they usually verify their information through multiple sources before they commit to publishing something. But somebody like a Jeff Snyder, they don't usually have the same high standard, so that's part of the reason why. And then when you have the man who's literally in charge of the whole thing, James Gunn, saying this is complete nonsense, then I think he's the authority ultimately. So that's where we're gonna have to go. That's who we will have to go with. But until then, until we find out for sure whether there will be a Robin or not, we'll keep an eye on the story, of course. Sorry, Jeff Snyder, it looks like you lost this one. James Gunn very directly saying this is complete nonsense. He stopped short of pointing out Jeff Snyder directly, but he basically did it anyway, and just about everything else. So with that in mind, we're gonna now move on to talking about a little bit of Marvel. Then we have quick hits. Then we talk more Batman, because Zach Cregger is not only directing Weapons right now, he also has his eyes set on potentially directing a Batman movie. But we will get into that later in the show. Right now, it's time for our MCU Weekly. And with that, we have to discuss a few things, including we were talking about earlier, how there's a movie coming up, Deeper. Well, we'll see if it actually is coming up or not. But Tom Cruise and Ana de Armas are potentially going to be a part of that if they can figure out the budget. But guess what? Ana de Armas is also being considered now for a role in a new potential Marvel movie. This is a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. But John, Shaq, we talked about this before the show. Ana de Armas, one of the hottest stars in Hollywood right now. She's just coming off what wasn't maybe the most successful movie in terms of what they were expecting from Ballerina. In fact, it kind of caused Lionsgate to report a bit of a loss in their third quarter shareholders report. But Ballerina still, was very highly rated, and a lot of people that went and saw it loved it. It's just not enough people went to see it. So Ana de Armas is clearly, a great action star. She's proven that between the John Wick franchise and the James Bond franchise. And now, according to a rumor, she might be in consideration, according to Daniel Rickman, for a role in the MCU. So he specifically said Ana de Armas is being eyed for a big Marvel role. Now, my question to you guys would be this, and I'll start with you, Shaq. Of all the things that are coming up with Marvel, of course, the big movies right now, you've got the 2 Avengers movies coming up. They're shooting them back to back. Doomsday, Secret Wars. We know pretty much she's not in, either of them, at least as far as we are aware, based on like that whole chair casting event that they did, putting out all
the trailer that they dropped. Yeah.
Yeah. So we know she's probably not in one of the Avengers movies. Is she involved in anything else that's already on the calendar? Like, is she going to be in Spider-Man 4? And then maybe, I guess you could tell us, Shaq, that where would you like to see her in the MCU if you were to, get Ana de Armas to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Well, with Ana de Armas, again, going back to like the thing we did with Batista, right? She's a very versatile actor, and her range, it varies from, being in Knock Knock with Keanu Reeves and then going on to be in a movie with Daniel Craig, which I think kind of put her on the spot and, put her on the map. And that is what kind of drew the, people at Lionsgate to kind of cast her for Ballerina, because I remember going to see No Time to Die, and she was just phenomenal in those action scenes. She was in those scenes for a very limited time, but man, the way like her and fucking Daniel Craig, that chemistry, man. Like bullets flying, gun, she's pulling the gun out of like her thigh. I'm like, this is like sexy, but this is also action. Like I like this shit, and I could see more of this. And I did go see Ballerina. I thought it was okay. It wasn't like a great film, but it also wasn't terrible. And now to see that, she's being considered for a role at Marvel Studios, I feel like if she could kind of, be immersed in the the Spider-Man verse, the Spider-Verse, that would kind of be good for her. Seeing as how Madam Web, we're not going to get into that, performed, and, the whole thing behind that. I could see her potentially being casted in like a role for like the Spider-Man, like you said, Spider-Man 4. Yeah, I could see her in, a movie like that. I feel like she's a phenomenal actress, and, she deserves every bit of her success. And I'm just excited to see where they would actually cast her, in a Marvel film. And obviously, in an actor's career, not every film is going to be a big hit. You're going to have some ups and downs. You're going to have high and lows. You're going to have hits and misses. At the end of the day, it's just about, you have to keep trying, and you kind of have to keep pushing yourself and trying to see, hey, like, what can I do better? And, recently with Marvel films, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm going to level with you. Marvel movies for the past year have not been the best. They've been, as John uses this phrase, dog shit. And or shit, whatever. But recently when I went to see Thunderbolts, that was a good shift. Fantastic Four was okay. It was better than most movies I've seen. And now, let's say if they make another like standalone movie with Ana de Armas, and she's playing some sort of character in the Marvel universe, and it's helmed by a good director, a decent budget, and it's filmed well and everything plays out perfectly. I think she has a shot, yeah, within the Marvel universe. So.
Yeah, and Tony was just mentioning maybe she could play a really accurate, comic book version of Mystique, which I mean that's relative because there's so many different iterations. But John, what are your thoughts if you were to see Ana de Armas? Because again, this is a rumor. Daniel Rickman doesn't get everything right, but he's suggesting that Marvel might be eyeing her for a big role in the MCU. So where would you like to see her? Because again, for the sake of conversation, we're going to assume that this is true, which it doesn't have to be. But if it is, where in the MCU would you like to see Ana de Armas?
I mean, I remember when Nando V Movies did a fan casting a while back, and he had Ana de Armas as Mystique, so that does seem to kind of make sense. And he's more knowledgeable about certain things than I am, so I would like to believe that. And then, I think she could do any kind of role like that, and I think she would be great. I don't necessarily buy this though. However, if this is the case, yeah, one of the X-Men would seems to make the most sense. Because I can't imagine really anybody else that maybe a newer character not acquainted with the X-Men, but it feels like they're casting a lot of X-Men stuff because, well, obviously they're finally bringing it into the MCU. So,
I feel
it would make sense.
I was just gonna add, I feel like if they added her to, with kind of like a main, character in something, that would be beneficial. Kind of like how Halle Berry was added with Keanu Reeves and John Wick. She had those two German Shepherd dogs, and the action sequences kind of just aligned. She played a good part in the story. It came together perfectly. I think if Ana de Armas did something like that, and then kind of like branched off as like a solo hero, superhero, that would be more beneficial rather than her just coming on strong because, well, I mean, solo and strong because given the box office performance of Ballerina, that speaks for itself. So
Yeah, I know a bunch of you guys in the chat, by the way. Yeah, those are good picks. Silver Sable could work potentially if you're going with like a Spider-Man adjacent character, but then that would kind of tie her into the Sony deal a little bit. So I guess that would depend on where they're going with Spider-Man. Elektra probably, I think I can see that Elektra could work. It would just also again depend on. Well, I think they're probably bringing back the Netflix version, right? Elodie
Yeah,
Yung might
so
be
that's
back,
unlikely,
so
but I could see it.
yeah.
Silver
So
Sable's usually Russian, so I don't think
didn't
that's
she
the
kind of
case.
play a Russian and or sort of Eastern European and Ballerina?
I could see
Is that not?
Electro maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see Elektra, but if they're gonna recast Elodie Yung, but I don't think so. I don't think they're gonna
We'll
do that.
find
'Cause
out soon.
I
about
can't
that.
imagine they're bringing Daredevil into the main
Well,
movies because
you're gonna get
probably rights
crossovers,
issues.
Kevin Feige said, but because Marvel has all the rights, they're gonna have crossovers like where you're gonna have like he showed up in Spider-Man, but they're not gonna be part of like all the big storylines. So we'll probably see like the Punishers and Spider-Man Brand New Day, but a lot of the story that's focused that the show Daredevil is focused around, that story doesn't really overlap with the movies as much. Like for example, what happens at the end of season 1 of Daredevil Born Again is really not addressed in Thunderbolts or any movie since. So Kevin Feige is trying to create that delineation between the TV shows and the movies moving forward. But yeah, but hey, you know what? Sony did crossover, so I guess it's possible. But hey, we got a few other pieces of news from Marvel. We do have now a rumored Disney Plus debut date for Thunderbolts, which has now been out in theaters or been out of theaters actually at this point for several months. So it's only just about now looking like we're gonna get it on digital. So here are the dates. According to a new commercial that's been airing in Greece, the movie will arrive on Disney Plus starting Wednesday, August 27th. That's about 117 days after the movie's theatrical debut, and a longer wait than even Captain America Brave New World, which they brought onto Disney Plus after only 103 days. Deadpool and Wolverine 110 days, and the Marvels 92 days. I'm not surprised because Thunderbolts has been the highest rated of all of those, so they probably wanted to give it more of a chance to make as much money as possible before it ended up on Disney Plus. Now, some of the other things that they mentioned in this article, of course, it looks like our man Pedro Pascal, who's in everything right now, he has just wrapped up production on Avengers Doomsday. According to Deadline, Fantastic Four kicked off the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Pascal recently wrapped production on the next Avengers movie, Avengers Doomsday, which will premiere in 2026. And then the last piece of news in this article that they talk about is, well, we now know who is driving the tank that they've been filming on the Spider-Man set in Scotland. So we can see a closer look. I mean, there's one with the helmet, one without the helmet. I'm sure they have some stuntmen doing this. So there you go. We got some more photos here. Of course, this is the Spider-Man on top of it. It's like a road legal tank, I suppose. It doesn't have tracks. It just has wheels on it. So there you go.
I like how they're filming right in the middle of like a big public audience because there have been like memes and like
they have to
AI generated
yeah.
images of like people with their phones with flashlights, and Spider-Man's on a tank right in the middle. Even like, I don't know if you guys follow like the artist Boss Logic. He makes a lot of the like motion posters for a lot of the films for the studios, and he even made like a spoof poster of all these people with their phones and like just filming Spider-Man on top of a tank. And I'm like, guys, like, come on now. Why are you filming like at that location? But I guess it was done deliberately to get all the hype for Tom Holland and stuff, But yeah.
But by the way, my question to you guys would be, Anthony's birthday's coming up August 28th. That's awesome, man. Hope you have a good birthday. You'll be here, I'm sure. We'll be here with you. But I wanted to ask you, John. Obviously, within the tank, they don't need to film unless they're filming inside the tank. They're not going to have, if it is John Bernthal's Punisher, indeed, they're not going to show that, right? We remember back when they were filming parts of the Batman in Glasgow or Liverpool as well. They had stuntmen. In the costume on the bikes. Even the Flash shot some of their scenes in the streets of Glasgow with, and you know, didn't have Ben Affleck in the suit. So I guess it's not surprising that we have a stuntman inside the trunk, a stunt driver inside the tank. But do you think in the movie this is actually going to be John Bernthal's Punisher driving the tank that Spider-Man's riding on top of?
It could definitely be the case. You know, I know a lot of people were saying it's Brad Pitt. It's a sequel. It's a secret sequel to F1.
It's the Stig.
Who are you? I'm Sonny Hayes. Why did you do this? I like the Rush. But you know, I think I did see a couple people that were like, oh, because of the logo on the side that some people thought was the Inner Demons logo. But some other people were like, maybe it's the new Punisher logo. Maybe he like wears the skull at first and then it changes to the current comic book logo, which is like the more demonic looking skull, because, you know, dumbass white supremacists have to take the skull and not understanding what the Punisher means and using the skull for their bullshit. So, you know, yeah, I think it could definitely be the case that it is actually the Punisher mobile, aka the Punisher battle tank. I think one of the comments said battle van. Thank you, Enterprising. Yes, battle van. That's what it was. Could be the case. Could definitely be the case. So whatever it is, if it is, you know, Mr. Negative, if it's not, I'm cool with both. But it seems like it's now seeing this, it's most likely gonna be the Punisher, because Mr. Negative was a bit of a reach, and yeah, the Inner Demons logo does look similar, but that's more and more unlikely than, you know, it's just Punisher, because he's actually, you know, been confirmed. So
yeah,
whatever it is, I'm stoked for it.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, unless it is the Stig, you know, but like Top Gear is no longer a thing. So yeah, we're getting set picks every day. That's very much true. It's like when Batman has a Tumblr. Yeah, it does look, well, it's definitely rides a lot higher than the Tumblr did. But speaking of, by the way, shooting in Glasgow, I just want to quickly highlight, this is obviously not the first big superhero movie in recent times to film in the streets of Glasgow, because it tends to serve really well as a stand-in for New York City, or, you know, in the DC side of things, Gotham City. You can see here they even shot parts of the Batgirl movie that we're never going to get to see in the streets of Glasgow. And then, of course, they're right now filming Spider-Man Brand New Day. They've shot The Flash, especially the chase sequence where, you know, Batman is chasing, I forget what the goons were at the beginning of the movie. So it's becoming quite a popular location for a lot of both Marvel and DC to film. So I just wanted to quickly shout that out. Scottish Times Square. Well, it's meant to look like New York. Like they've got all the cars and everything else very much looks like New York City, especially Lower Manhattan. I think this is meant to be. But hey, we also have some other news. It looks like Florence Pugh has won the Critics' Choice Super Award, which is specifically the superhero version of the Critics' Choice Awards, the 5th annual iteration of the ceremony. She picked up the Best Actress in a Superhero Movie for Thunderbolts. John, do you think that's fair, considering, I mean, you've got Lois Lane, you've played by Rachel Brosnahan, you've got Vanessa Kirby playing the Invisible Woman. There's so many options. Florence Pugh, though, picking up the award over all of the other contenders this year.
I love that fucking first comment. Just like say that again, but slower. You know, I can't judge her performance. I'm sure it was great, because Florence Pugh is a phenomenal actress. Mm-hmm. But you know, in terms of what I've seen, I think Vanessa Kirby and Rachel Brosnahan also did exceptional job, and Julia Gardner also did exceptional jobs in their films. So she had some pretty stiff competition. But yeah, I'm sure it was worthy enough, but I can't judge.
Yeah. All right. Well, not an incredibly important award, but nonetheless, it is an award. Now, earlier in the show, we were talking about how well, Josh Brolin right now is a big part of Weapons, which is the latest Warner Brothers movie that's going to open at #1 at the weekend box office. But if you guys might remember, Josh Brolin has famously played not one but two different roles back in his Marvel days. Of course, he's not involved with Marvel right now, but while he's probably not going to ever come back as Cable, he might just be interested in coming back as Thanos. And yeah, good night to you, emo nerd girl. So recently, he was on the Happy Sad Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz, and he was talking about like, hey, what about they're filming Secret Wars and they're filming Doomsday, and Josh Brolin, who I might remind you turned down the role of Hal Jordan in the new Lantern show because he was the front runner before they had to move on to other choices. He was asked about, hey, would you want to come back? Or like, is it a possibility that you're going to come back to the MCU? And he said, Deadpool 2, I'm glad it was one experience. The Thanos thing, if they called me in London right now and said, let's do this, I'd be like, I'll be there tomorrow. So my question to you here, Shaq, would be, I'll start with you. And there's more to this. He says a bunch of other things. But in general, I guess the question becomes, is he mentioning this because this is already in the works and it's because RDJ used to kind of be like, no, I'm done, I'm not coming back, and then he kind of changed his tune, and the next thing we know, he's Doctor Doom. So in the comics, there's also a famous panel where Doctor Doom sort of like punches Thanos, rips out his spine, because it's like the most OP version of Doctor Doom. I don't know if we're gonna get that in the new movie. How do you feel about the idea of potentially Josh Brolin coming back as Thanos, maybe in the upcoming Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars?
It would depend. I mean, if he's coming back as, Thanos in like a cameo or something, I would probably say, yes, I'm all for it. But, when they announced, Robert Downey Jr. as Doomsday, I was kind of like thrown off, honestly. I thought it was going to be someone else. And, I didn't like the idea because as much as he's a phenomenal actor and I've seen his good and bad, that he played the bad guy in Oppenheimer, right? And then he played the good guy, the best guy that we've known for many years in the MCU, Iron Man. And it's just going to be kind of difficult to see him in, that role play as Doomsday. I guess after watching Oppenheimer, it's going to be more comforting, but still, I just can't. I can't picture RDJ, man, as like Doomsday. I don't know. And same thing with Josh Brolin. Like if they bring him back as like I guess another character, it's just going to be hard for me to kind of like build on that. And because I know him as like the big badass Thanos, who like killed so many people and so many superheroes, and it's going to be tough for me. So I would not recommend them bringing him back other than anyone else than Thanos. And yeah, so that's my take on it.
Yeah, the what if Thanos. Well, John, I'll pose the same question to you because we obviously know that there's that famous scene in one of the comics with Doctor Doom where he literally just kind of like kills Thanos with almost no effort, it seems like, and it's meant to kind of showcase the true menacing nature and how powerful Doctor Doom is. I feel like in this new Avengers Doomsday movie, they have to kind of establish that Doctor Doom is maybe the same, if not a bigger level of a threat than even Thanos was, and without any kind of a build-up like Tony was talking about, how do they bridge that gap? Because they were building up to Kang, and now you got Doctor Doom. Obviously, a lot of people, even casual fans, have some idea of who Doctor Doom is, but you still got to establish him as like a legit threat in the movie. So, do you think it's very possible that Zach Brolin could potentially come back? Because as part of that same podcast, he did mention that he talks to the Russo brothers 4 to 6 times a week. He talks to Joe Russo a lot. He loves them, both of them. They're amazing. So usually, like I said earlier, when actors start speaking so highly of directors working on projects like the Russos are right now in the Avengers movies, either he's saying cast me or he's already been cast. Like, what do you think? I'm on the right track here, or are we just kind of like pulling threads? Like, is there any credibility to this?
I don't think there's any credibility at all. Fucker's dead. Keep him dead. It's so stupid how it's like, I would love to see Cable again. I would love to see him interact with Deadpool again. But the fact that he's like, oh yeah, that was a one-time thing. Yet the guy that's 100% dead, yeah, let's bring him back. You fucking stupid or something?
Yep.
The fuck do you mean? Like, I understand you want to come back for another payday. You want some of that Marvel cashish. Zach Cregger is not giving you that money you want. Okay, I get that. You're a man. You need a second yacht. All right, I'll give that to you. But like, you would be coming back to Marvel either way. Why not come back as the character that everyone wants to see again and loved seeing you in that role instead of the guy that that died twice? Like the present version and then the past version, which fucked up timeline stuff, but that's a whole nother fucking discussion I really don't want to get into right now. But it's just like, I don't get that. Like, I understand you want to come back. Marvel's very, it's very, you got the Marvel money. I get it. Like, you want to make money. If I was in your position, I'd want to come back to you, but like, why not come back as the character that has the ability to come back? I understand a reset is happening, but like, they're fucking gonna keep Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. They'd be stupid to fucking get rid of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool because he's probably gonna like. Kevin Feige could whisper the words. Yeah, maybe we can get another and before the sentence is even out, fucking Ryan Reynolds already has a fucking gun to his head. Be like, if you replace me as Deadpool, your brains are gonna be splattered on this fucking wall. I will tell you that right now. I guarantee it. He's like, I'm Canadian when I choose to be. Okay, let's just get that perfectly clear. So they're gonna keep him. Why not keep, Josh Brolin? I mean, there's plenty of other great actors that could take that role, but it's just like, I don't know. It just seems so silly to me that, oh, I'm willing to come back as the guy who's dead, but not the guy that people would like to see again. I don't know. It's just
I completely forgot that he played Cable. I don't know how I missed that. But that definitely throws like a callback to like fucking Chris Evans playing, the Human Torch and his cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine, and then John Krasinski also playing Mr. Fantastic in that cameo in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I was like, bro, let's go. Like, this is great. Like, like I could picture. At first there was like rumors, but then like you can see that happening. So yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying with Josh Brolin coming back as like Cable. That would definitely suit him.
Yeah, I think it's not likely that he's back as either of them, but it is, something to keep an eye out for, because I wouldn't put a cameo past, Marvel at this point. Marvel loves their cameos, so if it is only for a brief moment, like, I'm sure Josh Brolin wouldn't mind showing up on set for a half a day and do some motion capture and then leave, and then maybe just record some dialogue after the fact. So yeah, I mean, the Patrick Stewart is coming. The dude's like 90 years old and he's still coming back playing Professor X. So it's all possible. But guys, let us know in the comments down below what you thought about all those stories from the world of the MCU. Of course, we usually like to do MCU Weekly, as it says there, once a week at least. So whether you like the story about, hey, there's a rumor that maybe Ana de Armas is going to be joining up at the MCU, then Marvel might have a big role in mind for her. What role could that be? Is Josh Brolin potentially coming back as Thanos into the new Avengers movies? Will he come back to confront Doctor Doom? We'll have to get into it, because there would also be a double meaning behind that too, if you can think about it, because technically, Thanos might think, oh, that's Tony Stark. I respect the dude, but I still almost killed him. Let us know in the comments down below what you think about all of those things. And of course, with that, we now have to move back across to talking about other parts of the news. But before we move forward, I just wanted to quickly mention it. Shaq, I know this is your first time out, but if you'd like to step away at this point and enjoy the rest of your night, because we got a long show ahead of us, and we have kept you around for a lot longer than probably you were expecting, and we'll have you back on in the not too distant future. But right now we have to dive into the quick hits. So yeah, with that, I mean, it's been a fantastic show, and I'm sure you've enjoyed your time. Anything else you wanted to add before you head out for the evening?
No, thank you for having me on, man. This was lots of fun. I really appreciate all the discussions that we had. It was fun talking with you guys. And nice to meet you,
absolutely.
by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think John and you had a really engaging conversation about weapons, which don't tell me anything about it because I haven't seen the movie yet. But yeah,
The town gets nuked. That's what happens. The entire town gets nuked.
wow, that is inventive. Okay. All right. Well, with that, Shax, thank you again for taking the time.
Awesome.
And we'll see you on another episode of
course.
DCU Daily. Until then, well, John, it's time for us to get into, well, one of the best parts of the show. It took us a little longer than it usually does to get this far, but here we are.
Ha! Good joke, yeah. I'm kidding. You're nice.
All right. Well, the same. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Then there were two, and with that, we're gonna talk about some quick hits. John, we have a bit more news to get into before we get to the DC news, but the very first quick hit happens to be DC related. Chris Roach shared a snippet of "Bottoms Up, Up and Away," an original song that he recently wrote, which was inspired by the DCU Supergirl movie. We can't play the audio here, but your thoughts on this? I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to it.
No, I haven't had a
the
chance.
Lyrics are on
Definitely
screen.
will now. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, Five for Fighting gets all the love, for what they did. So it's like, give Supergirl a song. You know what? Yeah.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Well, we're gonna have to just wait and see if this ends up in the movie, if they are looking to do some needle drops in Supergirl or not. So they're in post-production right now. Well, the next story we have to talk about is, Tony Gilroy. Remember, after Andor, he kept saying he's working on a new movie, and it looks like now with that new movie he's been working on, Behemoth, Pedro Pascal, of all the actors, he's in pretty much everything these days, especially a lot of Disney projects between Fantastic Four, Mandalorian. Now it looks like he might be working with Tony Gilroy in his new movie Behemoth, which is set to land at Searchlight, which of course is also owned by Disney. Would you be interested in this, John? Another Pedro Pascal project, but this one written by Tony Gilroy, who's one of the best writers in the game right now.
I mean, I'm not a Pedro Pascal hater. I do think he's a little bit overused. I was very happy to learn that Josh Brolin replaced him for Weapons. I was like, yeah, I love the man, but it's a little the man has been in 9 projects for the past year and a half. It's like, okay, I get he's a working actor, love the hustle, he's great at what he does. I don't think he's creepy, all that stuff. But I think he needs to calm down a bit. However, would I still see this? Absolutely, because I'm a hypocrite. So, we love Daddy Pedro. But why are you breasting bitch face me? Why are you doing that?
I don't know.
Why are you doing that?
He's happy that Pedro's killing it.
I'm happy. It's just here's the thing. I don't want to be burnt out by him, and then I end up disliking him like so many other people have. And then it also doesn't help that Enterprising. That's a good one. But it's just I feel bad because the man is already getting so much hate that he doesn't deserve, and I don't want people to fucking pile onto that with another project that he's in. I just that's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see the man get more hate than what I don't want to see him get any hate because I don't think it's deserving. So that's all. I'll still see it. I still love to see him. I think he's great. I don't want people to hate him. I don't want people to hate Daddy Pedro.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for overexposure, and that might be something he's risk. I mean, we don't know when this movie is meant to come out, right? This is likely not coming out anytime soon. So for all we know, he's gonna be done. Obviously, maybe we might have had both of the Avengers movies come out. The Mandalorian movie would have come out. Now, if Mandalorian is good, they might be making a trilogy. So yeah, we're certainly not going to be getting any less of Pedro Pascal anytime soon. But in the meantime, John, we do have some news with Final Destination. The 7th movie in the franchise is now in the works with Bloodline's co-writer, and it looks like death is bloody good business for New Line. The puns. Of course, the movie that came out this year, Bloodlines, made quite a bit of money. It made $286 million worldwide, including $138 million domestically. So they brought back one of the co-writers, Laurie Evans Taylor. John, are you excited about the idea that we might be getting, we are pretty much getting a 7th Final Destination movie, a franchise that, quite frankly, I think a couple of years ago people thought were dead. but now it's kind of been revived with Bloodlines, and we're looking to get.
I mean, I'm still not going to see it because I don't really give a flying shit about Final Destination, but good for the people that want to see it. I understand people go, man, this man has Marvel money now. I don't think he's going to be struggling anymore. I'm just saying. You know.
Well, Tony Todd, he of course no longer with us, and he did his big one at the end of the last movie, kind of saying a bit of a goodbye to his fans, and it was kind of ironic, especially, and it was touching, especially, when the movie came out, because Tony Todd had passed away. Obviously, he's not going to be involved in the franchise anymore, but yeah, definitely chasing Scream for most sequels. So yeah, well, Tony Todd.
I don't know. Scream? Have you seen Halloween? Have you seen Friday the 13th?
Yeah,
I don't.
Depends on which one you're talking about. The original, the new one, or like the 50,000
well, yeah,
remake.
Halloween has like 12 sequels at this point. I'm pretty sure. Jason. Well, Friday the 13th has.
They're actually making a new short film
movies.
The Jason universe.
Yeah, they're gonna have Sweet Revenge, which looks like dog shit, and then Crystal Lake looks good. I'm curious about Linda Cardellini as Pamela. So anyway, sorry, continue.
There you go. All right, Kristen Wiig and Jonah Hill are set to star in Warner Brothers comedy Cutoff, set for a 2026 release. For Jonah Hill co-wrote the movie and is directing the feature that centers on the pair of actors who are going to be playing wealthy siblings. John, are you excited about this? This movie it's set to come out next year in July 17th. Of course, we've seen Jonah Hill in less and less stuff recently, but like Kristen Wiig has got a couple of things on Apple TV Plus. What are your thoughts about another Warner Brothers movie? This one looks to be like a comedy, I think. Yeah, it's a comedy. There you go. What do you think?
I'm probably not going to see it. I'm not a huge Kristen Wiig fan. Jonah Hill is hit or miss. I think when he's under like Martin Scorsese, obviously he's going to do great, but for the most part, I'm not a huge fan of him, and I've heard that he's kind of an egotistical douchebag. So I'm probably not going to. Hey, I didn't make the joke this time. I'm just saying.
I know, figure drawing. Don't worry, we won't overexpose ourselves.
Probably not going to watch this one, but I mean, unless it's like really fucking good and people are like, hey, you should see this movie. I'm probably not going to watch it.
Yeah. Well, like you guys were saying, Jonah Hill definitely, he's kind of stepped out of the spotlight because he's got crippling anxiety, kind of like Pedro Pascal. So he doesn't even do media for any of his projects anymore. But Kristen Wiig, of course, she's up to a bunch of other things as well. So, and speaking of being up to a bunch of other things, John, remember this clip from the movie Superman? They just posted this online, and it looks like Crypto wants to just sit in the lap of Lois Lane, and he doesn't like to ride shotgun. While Superman, of course, is passed out in the back. I forgot this was part of the movie, actually, but it's the most relatable thing ever because I'm like, that is literally what dogs like to do. I can so relate to that.
I wish my dog did this. She's kind of doesn't like to be touched very much. She doesn't like to jump in laps, which is kind of a shame because I like my lap is made for jumping dogs, so I want my dog to jump in my lap. Just when she has like not her fucking claws, because her nails get super long super quickly, so she has like talons after like a week, so after getting clipped. So that's a little bit much, but this is very relatable. Like for a while, our dogs, back when they were not allowed on the couch, they would always jump on the couch and my mom would yell at them, but then after a while she's like, I can't even do it anymore. They just fucking let them on the couch.
I just love the mannerisms in the animation. I'm like, for anybody saying Crypto does not look photoreal, I'm like,
I mean, you can tell it's CGI, but like
a little bit. I
mean, we've come a long way since Call of the Wild. Like, don't get me wrong, that was woof. But
bad dog, off the controls.
I was actually really funny, because when I was passing a theater to get to my theater for weapons, I passed a theater with Superman because I recognized the ending where Superman was yelling at Crypto to get off of Lex Luthor. I'm like, hey. But yeah, good stuff. Because dogs can't fly or punch people. Hate to break it to you.
Yep.
I didn't mean to sound overly sarcastic. It's just like it's easier to CGI a dog when he's especially when he's super powered and they want a certain look. They did use real dogs for like motion capture for reference and all that, but like they just couldn't because like he can't.
By the way, I find it really hilarious that she keeps calling him dog. I need you to move. I really need you to move.
I don't think she just met. This was the first time she met him, so she doesn't know his name.
Yeah, it's just funny. It's just so cute. I've already seen this like 20,000 times. By the way, I did want to mention, Figuredoring, you're asking about the whole Dean Cain situation. We don't really like to comment on anything that's too political, and I feel like if you brought that up, it would become political real fast. So we don't do politics. But yeah, he's doing things that I'll just leave it there. Anyway, either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. Tony, thank you. Well, speaking of die a hero, live long enough to see yourself.
Speaking of real dogs,
Air Bud. Of course, we know that there's a 15th movie in the franchise coming out now. They have started a nationwide search for a star golden retriever. John, would you care to bring your dog in for auditions for Air Bud Returns?
Considering my dog is not a golden retriever, that would be kind of impossible. She's a mutt. She looks like a beagle. So, I mean, if they ever cast Snoopy IRL, then sure. But nah.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the same boat, so we're going to move on from that. But hey, Kevin Hart and John Cena are coming together to star and produce The Leading Man as Netflix lands the action comedy pitch from John and Eric Heber. This is an action comedy based on the comic book series from Jeremy Hahn and B. Clay Moore to star. And well, I just mentioned Kevin Hart and John Cena are going to be in the movie. They're going to get producing credits. Are you excited or interested in this one?
I'm intrigued with this because Kevin, buddy, where's your boy Dwayne Johnson? Are you settling for another wrestler? Are you cheating on your boy The Rock? Very interesting. I'm not a huge Kevin Hart fan, but I do love John Cena. I tend to avoid his mainly straight to streaming movies, even though I've considered watching like Ricky Stenicki and Heads of State, even though they're not really all that great. But I'd watch this. I don't really like Kevin Hart that much. He's hit or miss. He could like in the Jumanji movies, I think he's really funny. But John Cena, like, I don't know. I think he's awesome. I think he's a grounded, cool dude, and I think he's really funny. So I might go see it for him.
Yeah, it's gonna be on Netflix, so you don't even have to leave your house for it. But there you go. All right, I saw this today. I thought it was kind of interesting. Fran Drescher, she won't seek a re-election for her SAG-AFTRA president position. Of course, she was the president. She is the president that saw the SAG-AFTRA through the strikes a couple of years ago. It was really painful. I can only imagine she was like the face of SAG-AFTRA. So it looks like she's had enough, John, and she won't seek a third term as the president of SAG-AFTRA. Fran Drescher, I mean, there's a lot of fans of her work, but she just, I can imagine, she's scarred from that fight. And ultimately, I mean, they came out of it with a better deal, but a lot of actors still, don't feel like they got enough. Like, what are your thoughts on this?
If she doesn't want to do it, she doesn't want to do it. That's the thing. I'm sure another great person will take her place. Another passionate person, because she has been so very passionate. Like, straight up, I remember there was a fucking episode of The Nanny where she didn't want to cross a picket line, and it's kind of interesting how that, is really like, the whole art imitates life thing in regards to her as a person. So, it's interesting, and it's glad she's standing up for something, but sometimes, even as Tony Randall has just said, probably just really burnt out with that fight, with that month upon month long fight. So she needs some damn rest. I think everyone would deserve a good rest after that. So
yeah, absolutely. And
she knows when to. No, I want to say not. She doesn't know when to quit, but like she's not. I don't think she's quitting the fight. She's just like this position of power.
She wants to step away. Right.
Yeah,
makes total sense.
Right word, yes,
and I think she still has some goodwill left amongst the SAG-AFTRA community. So hopefully, if she decides to come back at some point and be part of the leadership team, eventually, I'm sure she can do that. But I don't blame her for wanting to step away. The burnout is definitely real. All right, so this one here, again, we're not going to get into the politics of this. I just wanted to mention it because it was news that Gina Carano has settled her lawsuit with Lucasfilm and Disney. And there was a possibility because basically they settled it outside of court. So it seems like maybe there's a chance in the future Gina Carano could potentially return in the Mandalorian part of the Star Wars universe. It's not a certainty. She's certainly not, currently employed in Lucasfilm, and they don't have any plans. That's what Lucasfilm's official statement said. But it does leave the door open that, she could potentially come back into the fold eventually. That was also part of the Lucasfilm statement. John, what are your thoughts on this? Would you even like to see Gina Carano be back in the Mandalorian verse of at least that corner of the Star Wars universe?
It's very unlikely. So she's after with the whole thing in terms of the things she said, she's probably going to go to whatever hole that Dean Cain and Kevin Sorbo habitually crawl out of to stay relevant for old man yell at cloud moments, and then just kind of hunker back into that pocket that nobody wants to touch. So that's probably her future, and good for her, I guess. She burned 1,000 bridges over $75,000. Hope it was worth it, Gina.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, sure, you maybe came out of this, without having technically lost the lawsuit, but it doesn't mean you're going to get more.
I don't know if settling is really a win for her.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's more like a draw, which also doesn't bode well for her because she was the employee, Disney were the employers. I don't think they're going to want the controversy that comes with bringing her back, at least not anytime soon. It does leave the door open for maybe once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, a long time from now, maybe. I don't know. John, do you watch the Oscars? Good question from Patrick.
I do. I tend to watch it with friends. I don't really take it seriously that much because for the most part, they, it's just one giant Hollywood circle jerk because they just award things themselves. But once in a while, they do have their moments like Ke Huy Quan winning for, Best Supporting Actor. You have Godzilla -1 winning Best Visual Effects, all that stuff. But for the most part, it's just like, it's just crap. Because it's like, we won't give, Ray Fiennes an Oscar because he already won one, but we did give it to Adrian Brody. Sure. And they don't watch the movies that they're sent. So it's like,
yeah, which is still
Liz already ranted about that. We're done with that. So let's not get into that. Moving on.
So speaking of the Oscars, remember when the first Avatar was nominated for Best Picture? Well, the second one also did quite well, but James Cameron recently was mentioning or talking about the idea that, look, he's justified only making Avatar movies for the last 20 years, basically not making anything but Avatar movies for 2 decades of his career on the basis that they can do some good, not just make money. I think he's always sort of put, conservation and thinking of the planet that we live on and just, being more responsible shepherds of the earth that we are, a part of, essentially, the natural way, the order of things, and whether it's the second movie which focuses on all the water worlds, or the first one which focuses on the jungle, the third one which is going to more of a hellish landscape, fire and ash. Are you surprised that James Cameron, again, sort of he's justified the spending 20 years doing nothing but Avatar movies because he wants it to do some good? Of course, he's made a few documentaries along the way, but I mean, I can't imagine he spent nearly as much time on those as he has on these movies. Are you surprised by this statement?
I guess that's something, but I mean, the money ain't fucking hurting anybody neither. But I mean, if it helps, then sure. I know Steven Hillenburg was a huge, SpongeBob was part of the reasons why he was, he was a marine biologist expert. So he did SpongeBob based around that. And then when he stopped producing the show after, the movie, the first movie, that is, he went into focusing on, life-saving efforts of, ocean and marine life. So that's great. I think he even did a short film about it. So, it's there. I don't know if I 100% believe him, but if it's there, then I guess it means something.
Yeah, I mean, I believe him because he's definitely, done a lot of work outside of making movies that has to do with conservation and just, focusing on the environment. And Well, James Cameron is 70 years old, and then of course he no longer has John Landau, the man who produced all those Avatar movies up until a couple of years ago when he passed away. So this is a time in his life where James Cameron is reflecting on the past 20 odd years of his career, and rightfully so. I think using that as one of the big justifications, the fact that hopefully these movies raise some awareness about the environment that we are on a day-to-day basis humans do a lot of damage to. James Cameron wants to promote the idea that we could take better care of the planet that we live on. So with that in mind, guys, that is the end of the quick hits, and you guys can let us know in the comments down below which part was your favorite. Of course, also hit the like button while you're at it. Hit subscribe if you're new. We see new names in the chat each and every day. If you hit the notification bell, that's how you know when we go live. But we're not done yet. I know the show has been a bit long, but we still have some DC news to get into. So with that, guys, as I like to say, it's time. It's DC time.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts.
Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you, really, I'm doing sublime. I never wait in the stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all on the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto.
Hunka hunka.
All right, welcome on into another episode of DCU Daily. Of course, today we have to talk about a lot of Batman stuff, but we do have a few other things to get into before we get that far. So, it's going to be a packed show. We've already been live. If you're watching the full Osakura show, then you've been already sticking around with us for a few hours. We talked about the Batman earlier, but now we're going to get into more Batman news. But before I get into any of that, John, how are you doing so far? And what is your favorite part of the show that you're looking to get into?
I mean, we were talking about weapons. Zach Cregger mentioned a little ditty about something, so I'm excited to get into that part, but that's going to be at the end of the show, so we will see.
Yeah. All right. Well, the first thing we got to talk about, John, this came up yesterday, so I did mention it on the show yesterday, but we were sort of like pulling straws towards the end, talking about like what character Kerry Christopher might be playing, because he has now joined the Lantern show at HBO. He's known for The Days of Our Lives, the soap opera, and according to Deadline,
and Weapons, he was just in Weapons.
And Weapons, exactly, he was in Weapons. He's meant to play a young Noah, a polite and charming small-town kid, quiet, gifted for his age, and effortlessly good at whatever he tries. He's happiest when he's passing a football. My question to you, John, would be, who is young Noah, and how do you think he's going to figure into the show?
I think he's just an original character, and I think they're just spotlighting this because they're just showing off the cast list, and I think and I think they just want to show him off, and plus he was just in Weapons, so that's something. So this might be a decent headline. They just want to show it off, so I think that's it. I don't think this is anything major. I don't think so. Doesn't seem like it is. So yeah, I think just showing off more cast stuff. Nothing, because I don't know anybody named Noah. I don't think anybody associated with.
Yeah, because immediately I was like,
Noah.
Does that mean there's an older Noah that he's playing a younger version of, or is young Noah just the character that he's going to play, right? So,
we'll
seems
see.
like it's
it seems like they're having flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Since they cast Jon Stewart's parents, the young version of his parents, so clearly there's flashbacks to something. So maybe, did they remake Mr. Mom? Because it says Days of Our Lives and Mr. Mom. Did they remake Mr. Mom?
I saw that yesterday. I don't know if they did.
Because Mr. Mom is from the 80s, and this kid's like,
no, I know, no.
I
saw that yesterday, and I was like, it can't be the Michael Keaton movie.
Obviously.
Oh, it was a TV show.
Oh, they tend to do that. I know they did that with Parenthood and Uncle Buck and all this other stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, guess what? It aired on Walmart streaming service Vudu. which it kind now Voodoo's part of Fandango, so that's not even a thing.
Yeah, it's called Fandango at Home now, which is the
Yeah,
dumbest
it
title.
was.
Oh, what are you watching that movie on Fandango at Home? What? I call it Voodoo.
It was meant to be a sequel to the original Mr. Mom movie, so there you go. He was
Gotcha.
in that.
Anyway, yeah, this kid's going places because he was absolutely terrific in Weapons. I mentioned this quickly in the review, but I'll reiterate it here again. But the thing that was so good about him in Weapons was like he acted, even despite all of this stuff happening to him, he still acted like a kid and reacted to things like a kid. I know that seems silly to say, but it's like, in a fake environment, kids don't have the same level of emotional maturity as adults do. This thing is like kind of weird. They're in this space they're not familiar with, and they have to act contrary to reality, which is usually not trouble. I mean, kids play pretend all the time, but the fact that you're doing it for like people and there's cameras around and it's kind of weird, the fact that he acted so naturally, especially with a lot of messed up stuff going on in the movie, really showed how good he is. I think this kid is really going places. And yeah, this is just a fucking one-off episode guest star spot, but even then, it's a major, DC show. So the fact that they're, doing that is really, really something. So I can't wait to see more of this kid because I feel like he's gonna be. I mean, if he grows up normally, that's what we can all hope for with child stars. That he's gonna go do a lot of really good projects. Like McKenna Grace, like showed so much promise, and even though she's been in some kind of stinkers, shows how much she's grown as an actress and how great she really is. So yeah, I hope he's okay. I hope that he gets some good projects, but stays okay, especially with how Hollywood can be. So
yeah, could have been Damian Wayne.
Could have been
Damian Wayne. Yeah.
To be fair, it's a bit part, so maybe they can still bring him back.
Yeah,
but who
maybe.
knows? They'll probably go older for Damian Wayne, but obviously we'll see. If Andy Muschietti can get his shit down and actually work on the fucking movie, then we'll get to that point.
That's a really good point. But hey, we also have some Clayface news. We know, of course, Clayface is coming up in a year, like a little over a year from now. So they are getting ready to shoot the movie. They're in pre-production right now, John. But there was some news the other day, and I kind of pulled this in for today's show. Max Minghella, of who is known for The Handmaid's Tale, is currently being eyed to join the cast of DC Studios' Clayface. They don't really tell you who or what his character is going to be playing, but who do you think he could be brought in as? Like, what character would you like to see him in Clayface?
That is a very good question. I think, because I know that there was a character that, and that rumor thing that I hope is, not true, that like, oh, he's a detective and he's like trying to find Clayface and like, that I hope that rumor is true. But if it is true, then he could play that character, that a detective trying to prove himself. But he could also, be, yeah, really, it's like, oh, his name's John and it's a detective, Martian Manhunter. Fucking stupid people. But I think, he's probably just going to be not a nothing character, but like an original character, or he's going to be like a really Gotham PD guy that's hunting Clayface. We're probably not going to get any major people that's connected to the Batman mythos because they can only do so much because they want to probably properly introduce people in the official Batman movie that's coming out rather than, in a Clayface movie that was never even supposed to happen until James Gunn's like, oh, yo, Mike Flanagan, fuck yeah, let's greenlight this shit. So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Handmaid's Tale. I've heard the show's good. And I'm sure he's a great actor. So whatever they have in mind, I think he'll do great things. Yeah. Kind of like that.
Yep. Yeah. We'll have to just wait and find out. It could be just a very minor character, so we don't know that. We don't know which direction it's going just yet. But we do know that the BFI, the British Film Institute, John, kind of like the AFI, except in the UK, they have been doing some Superman screenings on their supersized screen. Look at this thing. This looks like an IMAX screen to me. I wonder how good the movie looks in that screen versus what most people might be going to see in their local town. That looks a lot of fun. Very immersive. This actually, I don't know if it's an IMAX screen or not, but it certainly feels like one. So that is awesome. That is awesome, Enterprising.
It is awesome. Very awesome.
Just a quick shout out there to the BFI.
I can just imagine being in the front seat.
Yep. I've always seen like those photos people take with like all the distorted. You see the credits roll like
that was me during Blade Runner 2049 because my dad fucked up the seats. That was fun.
You were
still
in
a great
B5.
movie, but
well, I don't know what the BFI. I can't imagine BFI overcharge you because it's the British Film Institute. They're not like super exclusive. It's just another movie theater screen that you can go see some screenings of movies that they like to showcase with some special content. Tom Cruise showed up to a fan event earlier this year, and they were screening a movie that everybody voted on. I think it was not Dead Reckoning. It was the Fallout. I think Mission Impossible, the one with Henry Cavill. That was the favorite version. I think you either that or Rogue Nation. So it's like the AFI, right? Like the American Film Institute, BFI also. They do a pretty good job of just celebrating the movies, which we like to do on this show as well. Speaking of the movies, John, for the love of movies, as we like to say on Also Curious, James Gunn talking about again bringing my whole family to see Superman this weekend. I guess this time around he's bringing all the Raptors, Ultraman, which secretly is of course David Cornsweat, and you've got the engineer there. So are you going to be bringing your family to see Superman in what is going to be its is it 6th or 7th weekend at the box office?
I think it's 6th.
6th? Wow. Dang. Okay. Yeah. Are you going to be going to see it one more time?
One more time. I mean, I hope so. I want to see so many things again. I want to see 4 movies because I know didn't we do a story like F1 was getting re-released in IMAX again?
Yes, this weekend you can go see it in IMAX. I'm actually going to see if I can catch it tomorrow or Sunday. They only have
hopefully, fingers crossed. But I am pretty busy, so
yeah.
Let's see. I don't have a car available all the time, so and I do want to pull a Liz and just be there the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
But I just do not have. I have too many things to do. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, let us know, guys, if you're going to bring your family to go see Superman this weekend, the 6th weekend of release for the movie. Still making good money.
What's real is family.
Looks like Enterprising is going to see it with his brother on the 21st for the 3rd time. Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to do a lot more than that.
Tony, buddy, that's nothing. We have people here that have seen it 8 times. I think M2G saw it 8 times. Watcher saw it 7
Watcher
times.
saw it 8 times.
Or Watcher saw it 8 times too.
They're tied. They're tied right now. We got to do a count one day. But yeah. By the way, yes, there was a Gotham PD TV show, but I think it didn't get lost in it didn't get canceled so much as it probably got lost in the shuffle in the changes between the old DC regime, which was kind of spread out at Warner Brothers to DC Studios, and they just don't have any plans right now. So, but yeah, there's people here who have seen it as many as 8 times. So, but hey, you know what, Enterprising? I hope you enjoy the movie, man, especially with your brother. Like, I hope you guys have a good time, and let us know how it goes. But in the meantime, before I lose my voice, we got a couple of Peacemaker things to talk about. So the next thing we have is from the world of Peacemaker, and there's a rumor going around, John, that and you know what, I quite frankly am like, this might as well be an open secret at this point because it is the worst kept secret in all of the DCU, which is that, hey, Joel Kinnaman is probably coming back as Rick Flag Jr., maybe in a flashback scene, maybe he returns and he's alive somehow, but that's the rumor going around, that we might be getting Rick Flag. And the rumor from My Time to Shine here is more so in what context we might be getting him, because according to My Time to Shine, Joel Kinnaman might be coming back as Rick Flag Jr., not the same one that we remember, but a version of the character from a parallel universe where Chris Smith decides to go and live out a happier life where he didn't kill Rick Flag. So the other part of the rumor is also that James Gunn might, as part of this whole situation, make the original Suicide Squad movie somewhat canon to the DCU. Although that, again, is not confirmed. David Ayer, of course, still wants to release his cut of that movie, the 2016 Suicide Squad. James Gunn has shown support for it somewhat in the past. So all in all, do you think Joel Kinnaman is coming back? Do you believe the idea that he's going to be playing an alternate universe version of him? And is that universe meant to be sort of like the DCEU version? How do you see all this playing out?
I see it as possible. Now, I'm not one to believe Scooper's My Time to Shine is barely right. However, considering that, the cinematographer, director tagged Joel Kinnaman in his Instagram post, which the tag mysteriously disappeared a couple hours later.
I remember that, yeah.
After some people pointed that out. So, it's pretty much kind of confirmed that he is coming back. I mean, it's probably not going to be a big part because I think they're still filming Are they still filming the 5th season of For All Mankind, or 6th season? Or are they done with that? Because I don't know when season 5 is set to come out.
I think it's coming out later this year. I think they're done with the next season. They did get greenlit for another one after that, though, right?
So maybe he's filming that right now. I don't know how quickly with For All Mankind is. By the way, I just finished season 2 the other day. We went on a binge. I think we watched like 4 or 5 episodes straight through because like something happened that we're like, okay, we gotta keep going. And then fucking episode 9 hit, and that fucking thing with, I won't spoil it, but then I'm like, okay, we gotta watch the fucking season finale. So we ended up doing that. So good times. Anyway, so I'm sure that maybe there's some scheduling conflicts where it won't be to be fair, at the time that it was filming, it would have been season 5. So maybe that it wasn't big because of that. But whatever it is, I like Joel Kinnaman as an actor. I don't think he's like one of the greatest of all time, but I think he does a lot right. So, and I think what he has been in has been a good. How about just don't bring back Harley Quinn? Period. I think we should just go with that. Anyway, but I think Joel Kinnaman is gonna. I think it's just gonna be a cameo just to show off this brave new world that Peacemaker. See what I did there? That Peacemaker is gonna be jumping to. Just be like, hey, I'm not dead, and like Frank Grillo just being like, hey, Peacemaker, how you doing? Like something like that. I could see them doing that, and then that's it. Like that's all we see just for that one episode, for that bit. Because I can't imagine that it's going to be more than that. He's probably not going to have a big role. So, yeah.
Yeah. I also don't see him coming back for more than maybe an episode, maybe 2 episodes. I guess they only have 8 episodes to work with, so I don't know if they're going to want to spend too much time on just that story thread. But hey, yesterday on the show, I talked about how James Gunn posted this, and Midtown Comics had this special exclusive. I think it was a giveaway. Like you can get in line and get yourself a ticket, or maybe even multiple tickets, to the upcoming world premiere of Peacemaker Season 2 in New York City. Now, Midtown Comics, as the name implies, is in Midtown Manhattan. And it looks like earlier today, people were in line. And so somebody was wondering, what is going on around Midtown Comics? What comes out today? Why are people lining up outside of a comic book store? And James Gunn happily pointed out it was the premiere tickets for Peacemaker these people were waiting for, and hopefully they all got it. It was I think between the hours of was it 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. I think. I wasn't gonna make it because I was doing the show until like 2 a.m. last night. So, but hey, I hope somebody did. Maybe we'll see if we can get a hold of some people that we might know who might be going to this next week. John, your thoughts on this? Would you have gone out to see to get a ticket if you knew this was happening today?
I mean, here's the thing. I'm on the fence because, as I've said, I'm not the biggest Peacemaker fan. It's an okay show. I don't love it, but I don't know if I would like wait in line for, like forever to get like tickets or something because not worth it to me. I'll just catch it on HBO Max.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you get to meet James Gunn and John Cena. I think
I would do it for that because I'd be like, John Cena, man, I really loved you in Sisters.
I think the best part about this is, again, James Gunn, bringing a lot of good positive attention to comic book stores, like Enterprising said. That's really ultimately, what I think is the best thing to come out of it. But hey, we've been promising the next thing all show long, so we have to talk about it, John. We have to talk about, of course. Oh no, that's the wrong thing. Hold on, let me. Oh nope, that's not it. Although that is a really good Superman suit, and perhaps the Superman, that Superman that we deserve, but not the Superman we need right now.
You don't turn your back on family.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, we've been talking about Batman all show long. Let's talk about Batman one more time because, well, Zach Cregger is just put out Weapons in movie theaters. And John, we know Zach Cregger is a big Batman fan, and it looks like he did write a script for Batman. Now, in a recent Hollywood Reporter newsletter, the Heat Vision newsletter, which I think I'm signed up for, so I saw it in the, they usually put out some exclusive reporting that doesn't even make it into big articles that they put out on the website. So if you get the newsletter, you might get a scoop. And this particular newsletter this week featured some details about Zach Cregger's dream DC movie, and it looks like they're going to take an iconic episode of one of the Batman animated shows to turn it into a DC film that could potentially go by the name of Henchman. Before we dive into the details, John, can you just give us a summary of what this episode even was about, and how do you think that ties into the movie?
So essentially, this is based around the idea of The Man Who Killed Batman, which is about this kind of low-level goon who is kind of a wimp, kind of a coward, who's trying to rise up the ranks, trying to like get a job as like a henchman, and it just kind of doesn't really work out. But one of the jobs he does land, he meets Batman, and apparently, as Batman tumbles off the edge, as the goon in question grabs his cowl and cape, falls down below, and the building explodes. And it appears that this little coward, rinky-dink goon killed Batman. So now has all this new fame. He also has new enemies that didn't give him the time of day before. And it's also not infamously, but famously, whatever it is, the episode where Joker says, without Batman, crime has no punchline. That was, I know, in the news after Kevin Conroy passed. So, so with that, and obviously by the end, it turns out he's not dead because it's Batman, because he's Batman. So it turns out that this guy is, and then he kind of goes back to being a nobody, which he now kind of prefers after, Joker and Harley try to fucking kill him. So there's that. But yeah, it's kind of like but that was like a 22-minute episode of a children's TV show. But yeah. Hey, Mike Flanagan said that he was inspired to make Clayface from the Clayface episode of the animated series, even going down to having Matt Hagen be the Clayface rather than Basil Carlo. So, it's not totally out there. And even Zach Cregger did say that Joker and Harley, unfortunately, would make appearances. Now, would this actually happen? That's probably unlikely. But I mean, with what he did with Weapons, it's definitely a really interesting idea. I know John Carpenter wrote an inline comic book about a henchman from their perspective working for the Joker. I forget what it was called, but it was a really good comic. I mean, John Carpenter. It was a really good comic and showcased what it is to be like a goon, not just for the Joker, but just in general, and how he lives. And it's a very interesting little comic. You kind of went out anyway, so yeah, it's definitely a really interesting idea. I don't know how you could make an entire movie based around that. It would be have to be a very short movie because I don't know how you would make that work. And the thing is, I feel like it would have to be made after Brave and the Bold because it's like the idea of like oh, maybe try to care about this Batman, be like, oh, is he really dead? Obviously, we know he won't be, but like the people involved don't know, like the people in the universe don't know. So it would be an intriguing thing to like get people to care and then like bring this up. So I think they could definitely try to make this work. I could see like with it being Zach Krieger, I could see it being like a horror movie, like this guy is getting haunted by Batman, and is it the real Batman or is it a hallucination, and kind of go off from there. So I could definitely see that working. I think that could be a really intriguing way of doing it. And try to like make that like make it work for an entire movie. But yeah, I think would I watch it? Absolutely, especially with how great Weapons was and how great Barbarian was. So I think Zach Krieger has a future for him in horror films. So and having a Batman horror movie. Who was the one that mentioned that? Batman Bats. But
Thank you, Batman Bats.
So kind of interesting that you brought this up because now I don't think he's in the show anymore, but I think that would be awesome. I would say Neil Marshall definitely deserves another chance at a comic book hero, so have him come in. Well, they're not going to have Batman show up in it. They already confirmed that because they don't have a Batman yet, so it's pretty much just going to focus on Clayface.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
To me, this feels like a similar story to Luca Guadagnino, who was a really hot director. You could say he still is. He wanted to do a DC project, and he had a script lined up. Things, I guess, just weren't working out the way that James Gunn expected it to. And now they've kind of like put it on the shelf until next summer. Here we are. Zach Krieger's doing really well with, obviously, you got Weapons in movie theaters right now. It's a Warner Brothers picture, so it's on the same lot as DC Studios. And since he wrote this script, it's apparently his favorite script he's ever written. So he didn't write it all that long ago either, it seems like. But according to sources here in the Hollywood Reporter, they said that like you said, John, it's going to focus on the low-level henchmen in the Gotham crime world. Now, the key part here is that Krieger, look, while he is a high-demand director right now, because Henchman would be Batman-related, I don't think that he just goes to James Gunn and says, give me this movie, and he gets it. Like, James Gunn is being very protective of the DC franchise of characters now. So according to this article, I'm going to read this out really quick. DC Studios, of course, has not even cast a Joker or a Batman yet. Harley Quinn, of course, theoretically, while they could bring back Margot Robbie, it might also be one that they need to recast. Also, it doesn't look like Zach Krieger, according to the Hollywood Reporter, has taken this script to Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves, Peter Safran, and James Gunn. Matt Reeves seems to be kind of like the big producer behind all things Batman over at DC Studios right now, whether it's the DCU or otherwise. So the fact that he's not even brought this up to the James Gunn or Peter Safran, although I have a feeling right now they probably are aware of it now that it's become public with this report. I'd imagine even if James Gunn and Peter Safran are like, yeah, we'd love to read the script, like whenever he decides to pitch it to them, they would still be a few years before we ever get a movie. Not to mention, John, he's got a movie coming up right after Weapons. He's working on Resident Evil. So that's his first really big franchise film. So I'd imagine that if that movie goes well, maybe Peter Safran and James Gunn might look at Zach Krieger and be like, okay, you know what? You can pull something off with a bigger budget, and maybe we'll let you do a Henchman movie. But until then, I personally don't think this is anywhere close to being a reality, although it's good to see that Zach Krieger, one of the hottest and one of the best filmmakers working in the business today, is interested in making a DC film. So we'd love to hear that on DCU Daily. Anything else you want to add to that? I mean, do you think there's a likelihood that this actually becomes a reality in the future, even if it is 4 or 5 years from now?
Nah.
Like, it's too obscure of it. But then again, I mean, that's kind of what, Zach Cregger does. He's very much.
I mean, the
goes
thing
against
is, it's
the
just
grain.
like Joker's overused. I think Harley Quinn is overused, and the thing is, Harley Quinn is just one of those characters that's just like everything she is a part of bombs. So I feel like that you just had like DC has like a
Well,
Harley Quinn curse
the
on their hands.
animated show seems to do really well, but
Yeah, that's like the one thing because like both
and let's be
Suicide
fair,
Squad movies, one was
the
a
first
box
Suicide
office
Squad
flop,
movie was not a
and one was
bomb.
a critical flop.
Okay, well,
And then
fair enough.
pretty much every like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was a huge flop. And there's just been, I think Suicide Squad is just kind of a dead franchise at this point. Like, I feel like no matter what they do, they just can't let it hit with audiences. You know, like, I mean, the Suicide Squad was very good, and a lot of people liked it. But but I don't think even in this post-COVID world that you can get it to work and have it make money like Guardians of the Galaxy did. So, I just think, I don't know. I think just Harley Quinn is just like a curse at this point, and I think they just kind of need to let her go. And if people really want to see her, they can pick up a comic book, or they can watch the animated series. But yeah, I just think, and Joker, he's just so overused at this point. I think they should focus on this if they are going to do a focus on the story, but like avoid using those characters because I just don't think that they would be necessary for this story anyway. And you could easily replace them with like a more interesting villain that hasn't been used a million times. So there's that as well.
Yeah.
Birds of Prey was the other one. Yeah, that was it.
Although Birds of Prey was slightly profitable, it made
Slightly.
enough money to be profitable. Like, technically not in the red. But I do think the big point that Enterprising made is valid. Like, the idea that if Clayface made for a budget of around 40 million next September, basically just about a year from now, if that movie does well, if that movie is really profitable, then that could really open up a can of worms where, James Gunn and Peter Safran, their entire goal with that movie is to prove that they can, produce DC franchise properties for less than $100 million and make them profitable. If they manage to do that, it all of a sudden opens the door for Zach Cregger to come in and for a budget of like 40 million, do a Elseworlds DC movie that's about Gotham City and could feature. I mean, obviously in that, I imagine in this movie you're not going to get a ton of Batman, but you will get some of the other characters that we've been talking about. So the only question is, like you said, we already have several versions of the Joker that have been running around recently. Harley Quinn, it feels like they're a bit overexposed. Not to mention we already are or meant to have 2 versions of Batman. So maybe it's not the right story for now, but in a few years' time, it might be very possible that Zach Cregger, who was going to be busy right now with Resident Evil anyway, so I don't even know if he got a green light that he would be working on it coming up like soon, anytime soon. So, well, you guys let us know in the comments down below. What do you think about the idea of Zach Cregger's DC Henchman movie, where a mobster kind of stumbles his way into notoriety in the Gotham underworld as being the one giving credit for killing Batman, even though he didn't. But I guess he kind of rides the wave. So we'll have to see if that ever becomes a reality. But in the meantime, John, the last thing we like to do every week, and we like to finish off our Friday show, is with a Q&A session. You picked out 5 comments from the folks, including I think some of you guys might even be watching. So let's talk about that, shall we? We want to wrap up the show today with a Q&A session. So, John, I'll let you lead the way. Where do we want to start?
Well, we can get into the ones I picked out from previous episodes before we do anything for today. But Nelson Moreno, I think he might be watching still. This was for our tier list Tuesday episode, but he said, just kind of leaving a nice comment. Thanks for the content, guys. Your videos are S tier. Well, you're an S tier commenter and watcher, Nelson Moreno. So we appreciate you as well, because without you guys, this would not be possible. So viewers like this stuff is supported by viewers like you. Yes. Anyway.
Thanks for the PSA there. By the way, Enterprising making a good point that you can make that Zach Cregger movie a streaming movie, or a Elseworlds project that lives on HBO, like a streaming special. But Ron is also still watching. He's been here this whole time. Well, okay, thank you for that.
But although this I found interesting from Kyle, that we do have a Fancast Friday today for you guys, and we will be talking about Batman, so this was very applicable. But Kyle said Brandon Sklenar all day in regards to who he wants to see for Batman, and we will be getting to that next. We will be continuing this theme. We're going to be quicker this time around since it's 3.5 hours in, but we will be doing Fancast Friday after the stream, so kind of like what we do with Tier List Tuesdays now. So Brandon Sklenar, ya boy, looking that he's pulling off the all black. I'm just saying.
He looks like a pretty good Bruce Wayne in that photo. Minus
yeah,
mustache,
I would say shave the beard. I would say
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne shouldn't have a beard, but that's just me. Because like having it in the bat suit would just fucking look weird. But then this next one, I think we were talking about the Fantastic Four box office drop. Because when this gentleman or lady said this, I'm not going to even bother pronouncing that username, but they were being very not nice about it. But they were saying Marvel is officially cooked. Dan, you did respond to this comment already. You said how unless, and maybe that's not totally the case yet, because unless Brand New Day, Doomsday, and Secret Wars all underperform, then I don't think Marvel is cooked just yet, especially considering the critical reviews. I think Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are going to prop up Spider-Man. I think they're going to walk so Spider-Man could run, because it helps that Spider-Man is like the most popular superhero in the world, and it very much helps that. But
the last movie almost made $2 billion, Sean. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, that and it's just like the love of Spider-Man, and on top of the fact, they did get some goodwill back with Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four critically, so there's that. I don't think Marvel's cooked just yet. I think it's silly to think so. So we'll just have to see for the future.
I mean, they might cook with Avengers Doomsday. I don't think they're cooked, but they might be cooking with the movie.
Smell what the Marvel is cooking. Probably dog shit on the other side of a dumpster, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll hope that's not the case. But Morkana also saying,
I think he was watching earlier on the show.
They were watching earlier, and they were talking about how they saw Superman and it was amazing. I felt uplifted when leaving the theater. I think most people felt uplifted when they were leaving the theater, unless you're Fiona, who hated the movie. No, I'm just kidding. No. I know she did. I know she liked it, but didn't love it. But yeah, I think that's what most people felt, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. I thought, I agree. Even on the third rewatch, I was like, that's great. I almost cried during that third rewatch. It's just the scene. It's just like, even though I've seen the movie twice, I was still on the edge of my seat when, the building is falling down, the last car that was evacuating, just the buildup. And then he catches the building, and then he rises from the debris, and just the fucking theme. But this cinema, fucking cinema, right here. Cinema. It's perfect cinema, right there. Anyway, but we do have
thank you,
one more back and coming with a full circle moment with Nelson Moreno. We were talking about Naked Gun, and he had to mention his favorite Liam Neeson performance, which was Qui-Gon Jinn, his favorite role that he's acting in. Which I will say, the Star Wars prequels suck, but Liam Neeson did not suck in them, even though he did view his death as very namby-pamby. But that's
I was gonna say, didn't he say that recently? I was like, he said namby-pamby.
He did. It was so good.
What the Liam
it's
Neeson?
A British Isles term,
I was like, what the okay.
This poster was not made with AI. Fucking oh god, that I knew this. I knew it was gonna be great, but then when I saw this, I'm like, this is gonna be one of the best of the year, and it fucking was.
Oh my god,
love it.
Quality. It's so funny. Yep. Anyway, Qui-Gon Jinn, namby-pamby. Oh, we didn't even mention that on the show. I think was it one of the quick hits? I totally forget if it was.
It was not.
Yeah. Anyway. Wow. All right. Is that it? Is that the last comment that we
Yep,
got?
that's the last comment.
All
Not a
right.
ton of questions, but that's
Well, we
okay.
had a bunch of questions earlier. You guys were popping in
I
with
kind of
the
went through
weapons
them while we were
conversation.
doing the
Yeah.
um
The weapons review. Yeah.
although we were talking about let's go through the ones that we didn't go through. Hang on, let me
He's thinking it in this photo. Yeah.
um
A Qui-Gon General was very namby-pamby.
I mean, we can't
Yeah.
exactly answer this because Shaq isn't here anymore. But since you're a horror fan and maybe a comic book fan, like they're gonna do Clayface in the Body horror style. What villains for Superman or Batman would you like to have put in a horror genre? Well, we can answer it right now. I mean, they're already kind of doing a Swamp Thing horror movie, as James Mangold mentioned a couple times. But if we're talking about villains, honestly, like if we're doing Elseworld stuff, not attached to any, like previous continuity or anything, just taking the character and just using that, Cyborg Superman could be a good one, where it's just a guy who like sees his entire team get murdered. Well, not murdered, but like killed by something. Like his wife gets killed, all this shit gets killed, and then he gets his humanity ripped away from him and it's implanted in this robot. He's forced to become Superman for whatever reason. Maybe Superman is dead and whatever, or Lex Luthor is just doing something and he is just forced to like become this thing, and kind of like a RoboCop kind of thing, where it's just like he has to rediscover his humanity. But it's like you could have a lot of horrific things like PTSD and that kind of shit that could possibly work for that. Can't really think of anything else in regard. That's the only like character I could really think of that could do that. What would you have one that could fit into those?
What villains for Superman or Batman? I mean, well, Clayface is obvious one, and you mentioned Swamp Thing already.
Dollmaker could be good.
Could
That's
be.
a interesting kind of.
Maybe Killer Croc. I don't know if that quite applies, but
that could work.
Maybe. Solomon Grundy, I think Enterprising was mentioned.
Yeah, although Solomon Grundy, yeah, he kind of goes between Batman and JSA villains, so
maybe something when you do introduce magic, maybe whether it's Black Adam or Shazam, you can always go into those kind of like Dr. Sivana, like maybe you're bringing them back, those kind of or like introduce a version of that in the DCU.
Yeah.
Mr. Freeze we have talked about. I don't know if that would apply to the question specifically as far as going the horror route, but Superman Parasite could have horror elements.
Yeah.
Man-Thing. Okay. Those are all good options. Those are all really good options. And as you can tell, Liam Neeson is very skeptical of all of them. But anyway.
Another one we had, do you think the Sydney Nunn horror movie was good? Like that was immaculate. I never got a chance to see it.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. I did see the reviews. They were kind of rough. So
yeah, I've heard mixed things. Like some people said the First Omen was better. Some people said Immaculate was better. So I'm not
the target audience, so
yeah, that's fair. Also they were like, whoa, bro, you went 5 hours to see Weapons, so yeah, that's crazy. I don't know if I would do that even for this movie.
Did Shaq go 5 hours to go see it?
Yeah, he said he drove 5 hours to go see Weapons.
Wow. Oh my god.
That is I think Emo Nerd Girl already had this question answered. They were asking, is there sequels to Toxic Avenger? Yes, there were 3 sequels. Is Agatha coming back? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see because Agatha wasn't really a hit. But
so that's a good question. I don't know. Well, I think Emo Nerd Girl, well, she went to sleep, but Agatha all along is rumored to potentially be in the new Vision show, but that's all there is to it. And then what's the name of the actress again? Why am I forgetting? Catherine Hahn. She has sort of hinted at the idea that she might be coming back, but she hasn't said anything definitive. I think she was on either the Kelly Clarkson show or another show where she was asked about it, and she kind of just played coy. And obviously, Catherine Hahn, being the actress that she is, she could just be bringing us along for the ride. But I wouldn't mind seeing her character back. It just depends on what they're gonna do with her. Maybe I'm sure she's gonna be in one of the Avengers movies, so we'll see.
Then I think the last one is, do you think they will make Robin a teenager in the next Batman movie. Now, I don't know which Batman movie you're talking about. I'm going to take a wild guess. It's the one that's confirmed, which is, the DCU one. Now, considering when Damian was introduced in the comics and the animated movie Son of Batman, he was like 12, I think, like 11, 12 years old. But I can imagine them going a little bit older because, this kid is supposed to be like murdering a lot of people. And the whole thing is like he's learning to like become more Batman-like than like kind of shedding the Al Ghul side and becoming more like his father, which they've kind of done okay, and then they kind of reverse stuff and comic status quo bullshit. So I would like to see, like, if I were to take a guess, I could see him like 14 to 16 if they do want to age him up. I wouldn't mind that. I think it could definitely be harder to introduce like the idea of him, like he's a teenager, so he's less impressionable. So, and puberty stuff, you could add that in. He's like, no, I'm not going to listen to you, Dad. Get the fuck out of my face. I'm going to kill people all I want. So I could see them doing that because, like, child actors, it's very hard to pull off certain things, especially with ones that are, doing fight scenes and doing a lot of messed up shit. So, we'll see, but I could see them aging him up.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to be like an 11, 12-year-old. I think you're looking at probably 14, 15-year-old. I don't know, but then again, we'll have to wait and see just the tone of the movie, and we have no idea at this point. I think it's just kind of speculation. I'd imagine they don't want to go too young because that causes there's like other, ways in which that could get weird. But yeah, I don't know. By the way, there wasn't an announcement for season 2 for Agatha all along. I think. Well, Jack Schaefer, I don't even know if she's working with Marvel these days. But Aubrey Plaza, actually, she's got a new movie I think we talked about the other day that's coming out. And yeah, she might be coming back in one of the future projects. Her character was a good part of that. Kick-Ass Hit Girl. Oh, you're talking about Chloe Grace Moretz. Yeah. Well, I don't know in what context, but anyway. That's it. That's all the comments we had. But you guys can take a bit of a break. We're going to take a bit of a break. Then we're going to come back. There'll be another live stream on the channel you guys can click onto. We're going to do the definitive Batman fan casting. We've got 5 names, and we're going to get into all of them. John has made some good picks. We even have some honorable mentions. We're going to have some pros and cons for each one. And also, we have a likability meter. Just how likely is it that one of these actors is going to get cast in the role of the DCU Batman? So be sure to join us for that. We're going to be live probably in the next within the next 30 minutes. So we all get to take a bit of a break and then come back and do it all over again. So with that in mind, John, thank you again for your time. And of course, Shaq earlier was on the show. You guys, of course, we can't do it without you. We are now past 23,000 subscribers, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of your support. So as John mentioned, this show is brought to you thanks to the support of people like you. And with that, guys, hit the like button on your way out. And then, of course, be sure to join us back for the DCU fan casting for Batman coming up in minutes from now. And hit subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live with that Batman fan casting in a few minutes. Until then, as James Gunn would like to tell you, don't forget to look up.
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see.
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts. Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you really I'm doing sublime. I never wait in a stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had a